Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
In the stillness of the night, the heavy door to the lavish bedroom creaked open. A petite figure slipped inside, her steps light as whispers. The sharp tang of alcohol mixed with the steady rhythm of a man's breathing filled the air. She wrinkled her nose. Was he drunk? On the bed, his tall frame stretched beneath the sheets, the outline of strong muscles clear even in the dim light. His legs bent lazily, one slender foot peeking out like a careless secret. "Gong Machin, don't be afraid," she murmured, edging closer. "I won't go to hell just for sneaking in here, right?" His face stole her breath, sharp brows, deep-set eyes closed in rest, lips pressed into that familiar, unrestrained curve. He looked like a god carved from marble, untouchable yet dangerously alive. She bent down, brushing her lips across his. "Uncle, wake up!" she teased with a laugh. His eyes snapped open. Blurred thoughts stumbled through his head, but then clarity struck. Her? Here? Hadn't he already sent her away to her grandfather's estate? His people swore she'd behaved, quiet and obedient for once. Yet here she was. For 18 years, he'd lived with her chaos. Without it, the house felt unbearably empty. Maybe that's why he drank tonight, why he dreamed of her again and again. Love was a habit. Habit was an illness. Illness needed a cure. Qin Sheng. His hand shot out, gripping her arm. You're hurting me," she cried, struggling. Anger surged through him, raw and dangerous. He shoved her off the bed and dragged her to the door. "You promised. And you dare sneak back?" His voice was ice as he hurled her outside. "Uncle, I'm not leaving." "I won't," she shouted, pounding on the door. "Go back," he roared, slamming it shut, sealing himself away. If she lingered even a second longer, he knew he'd give in. On the other side, Qin Sheng fumed. Bang after bang, her fists hit the wood, but the barrier didn't budge. "Fine. Slam the door. I'll smash the house. Burn it down. Tear it apart." Wild schemes flashed through her mind, only to fade as quickly. No tools, no fire, no chance. She glared at the door. Why did God make doors and windows if I can't get through them? And then, her grin returned. She had another plan. Racing to the corridor window, she swung it open, climbing onto the stone ledge. Fingers clutched a drain pipe as her foot scraped against the sill of Gong Machin's window. The rough paint tore her skin, but she didn't care. Inch by inch, she hauled herself across, pressing her body against the cold glass. With a wicked smile, she dragged the diamond ring he'd given her across the pane, carving white scars into the glass. "Let's see if you regret giving me this now, Uncle." But her triumph didn't last. The platinum bent under her force. The flower-shaped mount twisted, and the diamond popped free, vanishing into the night. Her eyes widened. No way. A sudden gust of wind whipped around her, chilling her to the bone. Worse, she realized she was stuck, unable to move back or forward. Then the sky split. A jagged bolt of lightning lit up the world, thunder cracking like the heavens themselves had snapped. The vibration jolted her grip loose. Her body pitched backward, balance gone. "Aha!" Her scream tore through the storm. She wasn't ready to die. Not like this. A firm hand yanked Qin Sheng back from the brink, pulling her through the window as the icy night air lashed against her cheeks. "Uncle, I was so scared. I thought I was going to die." She clung to Gong Machin like a koala, burying her face in his shoulder, trembling, but her sly eyes glinted with victory. The plan had worked. She was back where she wanted to be, in his room, in his arms. "Don't cry. Don't be scared. I've got you." Gong Machin's voice softened as he held her close, his hand gently patting her back. When he'd spotted her balancing on the third-floor windowsill, his heart nearly stopped. What on earth had possessed her to pull such a stunt? He should have unleashed his fury. But her tears, her shaking shoulders, her soft cries, they caged his anger, leaving only helplessness. Her arms looped around his neck as she sobbed dramatically. "Uncle, my ring, my poor ring. I'll buy you 10 more tomorrow." He kissed her forehead, sighing. "And my feet hurt." This time she wasn't faking. Now that adrenaline faded, the sting of scraped skin spread through her soles. Gong Machin carried her to the sofa, lifting her small feet onto his knees. Cuts and scrapes covered her skin. He fetched the first aid kit, carefully sterilizing her wounds. So stupid, he muttered. Why climb onto the windowsill? What if you fell? Because you shut me out. You locked the door, she snapped back, lip jutting. I didn't lock it, and I told you to go home. His voice broke with anger. He wanted nothing more than to send her straight back to the Qin estate, away from temptation, away from himself. But Qin Sheng only pouted harder, pretending not to hear. Uncle, it still hurts. Blow on it for me. He exhaled against her wound, humoring her. There. Better? Now I'll drive you back. Instead, she bolted onto the bed, rolling under the blanket. I'm not leaving. I can't sleep anywhere else. Only here. You can take the spare room, he said stiffly. I'm used to sleeping with you. His face darkened. You can have anything else, but not me. I don't want anything else. I just want you. Qin Sheng. His low, dangerous tone made the air drop 10 degrees. For a heartbeat, even she trembled, but she raised her chin anyway. Then tell me why you're chasing me away. You're too old to live here anymore, he shot back bluntly. Her lips curled bitterly. Too old? After 18 years by his side? Now she was suddenly too old? You're lying. It's because Aunt wants to marry you, isn't it? Don't spout nonsense. She's my sister, and you are my niece. His voice was harsh, but his heart knew the truth. She was his weakness. But you're not even my real uncle. You're just grandfather's adopted son. Still your uncle, and still your guardian. He ripped back the blanket, trying to drag her out. She clung tighter, arms wrapped around his neck, her body pressed close. It's raining outside. If I go, my wound will get wet. The scent of pine and cypress that clung to him wrapped around her like a drug. Within minutes, her soft breathing steadied. She'd fallen asleep on him. He froze, torn. Part of him wanted to shake her awake, send her away immediately. But another part, softer, weaker, couldn't. With a helpless sigh, he stroked her hair, eyes burning with emotions he refused to name. Qin Sheng, what do you really want from me? Later, he picked up his phone. Nye phone. Tomorrow change all the villa's windowsills to marble. Every single one. He hung up with a long exhale. Qin Sheng slipped into the living room and hid behind the plush sofa to eavesdrop. She clearly heard second Aunt Zheng Min's voice point too. She rolled her eyes then. Zheng Min's tone was like she was advising Gong Machin to adopt a puppy or a hamster point too. Her father was the son of her grandfather's ex-wife. Her mother died in childbirth. Her father died in a car accident on the way to the hospital to see her. She had been an orphan since birth, and the whole family treated her as a jinx. Gong Machin was the first person she'd seen when she came into this world. He was also the only person who loved her. Truly loved her point two. Come out. Gong Machin pressed his finger on his throbbing temple point two. Qin Sheng crawled out from behind the sofa and looked at the man with a fawning face. No one wants me. Why don't you continue to take care of me, too? Gong Machin pouted. Don't you know that you're supposed to wear clothes in front of a man, too? A ray of sunlight shone on the girl's body, illuminating her soft skin and curves. The white shirt faintly revealed all of her beauty beneath it. He forced himself to look away point two. Qin Sheng tugged the man's shirt to her body. D*MN, but am I not wearing this properly? Besides, when I was young, you changed my diapers and bathed me. Where have you not seen and touched me before? Oh, uncle, you have to be responsible for me if you've seen me naked, too. She poked at the man's chest, trying to provoke a reaction out of him point two. Gong Machin flicked the girl's forehead with his long finger. You're 18 years old. What are you thinking about, too? I'm already a grown-up. Qin Sheng rubbed her forehead, trying to filter away the sting point two. And I'm 10 years older than you. Gong Machin said coldly point two. I don't think you're that old. Qin Sheng's eyes widened like an owl, and she looked at the man obediently, showing off her cuteness and batting her long eyelashes point two. Gong Machin's lips twitched. I think you're young, too. Then his face hardened, and he said fiercely, let Nye Phone drive you back to your grandfather's house. If I see you here again, don't be cross at me for being rude, too. Qin Sheng bit her lip, tears welling in her eyes. Why you want me to leave, too? I won't leave. I won't leave. I won't leave, she told herself. She wanted to see how far she could push him. Point two. Two. As night descended, Gong Machin walked into the villa. Point two. Nie Feng reported. President. Miss Qin locked herself in the bedroom. I haven't been able to take her back to her grandfather's mansion. 2. Gong Machin strode into the bedroom. His body was filled with a biting coldness as he kicked open the door. This was it now. The last straw had been severed. Point two. Qin Sheng looked at the furious man in astonishment. This was the Gong Machin she had never seen before. He was like a demon from hell. Point two. Throw her out now. Don't let Qin Sheng step into my villa or the company again. Gong Machin ordered his men coldly. Point two. A few bodyguards walked forward. Miss Qin, please, one of them said respectfully. Point two. Qin Sheng's lips twitched and her eyes widened. She glared at Gong Machin. Why are you doing this to me? Why won't you let me stay? You're horrible, too. After saying this, she pushed through the bodyguards in front of her and ran out of the room. She would never go back to her grandfather's house. She would run away. Her only option. Point two. Run away from home? Yes, run away from home, she thought. She didn't believe that he wouldn't be anxious. That might make him understand. Point two. Gong Machin stood in front of the window and watched the girl run out of the villa. He turned around and said, Nie Feng, pack Miss Qin's winter clothes and throw them to her, too. Nie Feng quickly agreed and ran into the walk-in closet to get Qin Sheng's clothes. There was a pile of them in a drawer and hung up. Was he going to throw them or give them to her? What would be best, too? The winter wind whistled and made Qin Sheng tremble. She regretted not bringing her luggage out. But even if she was frozen, she wouldn't go back and beg Gong Machin for clothes. That wasn't her style. Point two. Miss Qin, too. Qin Sheng turned around and saw Nie Feng, who had been chasing her. Gong Machin got someone to chase her so quickly, too. She was delighted. She put her hand in her pocket, raised her head, and asked, He asked you to pick me up? He should come and pick me up personally, too. Nie Feng looked embarrassed. The president didn't ask me to pick you up. He asked me to pack your clothes and throw them out to you. Miss Qin, get in the car. I'll drive you wherever you want to go, too. To be honest, Nie Feng didn't understand what had happened between Qin Sheng and Gong Machin. No matter what trouble Qin Sheng had caused, the president had never treated her like this. Point two. He remembered when Qin Sheng was in primary school and was bullied and beaten up by a female classmate because she was an orphan. Gong Machin brought him and a few other brothers into the school and blocked the girl at the school gate. They scared the girl so much that she immediately peed her knickers. Gong Machin even forced the girl to apologize to Qin Sheng. Point two. When she was in junior high school, Qin Sheng was late one time and the principal punished her. She had to stand at the school gate for an hour, shamed in front of her classmates. Point two. In retaliation, Gong Machin had driven to the school, thrown down a check, and bought the establishment. He had fired the principal and told Qin Sheng she wouldn't need to worry anymore. Point two. Even if Qin Sheng caused a riot at school, Gong Machin would only ask her if she was tired. He had a soft spot for her. Nie Feng knew this more than some. Point two. Qin Sheng's lips twitched. F***CK. Even her clothes had been thrown out, too. Give me my clothes. I'm not going in his car, she said stubbornly. Point two. She grabbed her luggage and left. She knew Gong Machin very well. She wanted to anger him and make him regret what he had done. She wanted to get under his skin, too. Nie Feng had no choice but to follow Qin Sheng in secret. He eventually stopped when he saw Qin Sheng walk into Chu Xia's house, one of her classmates. Point two. Two. The next night, the two girls walked into a nightclub, the sparkling lights, drunken revelers, and booming music radiating around them. Point two. Qin Sheng, let's go back. I'm scared, Chu Xia said. Point two. What are you scared of? Our work-study program is above board. Qin Sheng mustered up her courage. To be honest, she also felt guilty. A little too. F***CK. Sister, our work-study program is above board. The problem is, can the things you sell be classed as above board? Chu Xia was on the verge of tears. Point two. This was the only job they had found after a full day of searching. For this job, they had even paid a 500 yuan deposit. If they couldn't sell the product for 500 yuan, they would lose all their money. And that was the most pocket money she had saved for a long time. 2. F***CK. Isn't the birth control product above board? The country promotes the need to love life and prevent the spread of sexual diseases every day. The country should be doing what we're doing. Besides, if I don't earn money, what am I supposed to eat too? Didn't your uncle give you a black diamond card? Do you have any upper limit on it? Chuxia tugged at her work clothes. That D***MN boss still wanted them to wear work clothes, even for this profession. Point 2. However, these work clothes were like slinky pieces of cloth around their bodies. It was either too much of the top or too much of the bottom. A lose-lose situation. The clothes were far too revealing. Point 2. I ran away from home. Even if you beat me to death, I won't use his money, Qin Sheng said with conviction. Point 2. She looked around the nightclub. It was her first time entering this place, and she was a little dumbfounded, taken aback. Point 2. Her gaze swept across the hall and drifted to the single rooms in the corridor. Let's go to the single rooms. The expenses are high in there. There's probably a princess waiting in one of them. She might need the birth control, too. Chuxia almost vomited her lunch up. Entering the single rooms? There won't be any danger, right? 2. D***MN. How would I know if there's any danger? We'll know after we take a look. With Chuxia by her side, Qin Sheng randomly picked a single room and knocked on the door. Point 2. Sensei. Qin Sheng's words instantly stopped, her voice fading out. Point 2. In the middle of the single room sat a mixed-race boy. He had thin eyebrows, brown-red hair, purple eyes, red lips, and a diamond earring in one ear. He oozed an elegant feminine beauty, but still held an air of manliness. He lounged lazily on the sofa, as though he was a demon who had accidentally fallen into the mortal world. Point 2. A man hurried over and dragged Chuxia and Qin Sheng to the purple-eyed man's side and sat them down. What took you so long? Hurry up and drink with the Duke. No, you've misunderstood. We're not the princesses of the nightclub, Qin Sheng quickly explained. The men in the room were probably waiting for the princess, not them. Point 2. Beside the purple-eyed man was a thin boy. His facial features were very delicate and pretty. He looked like a little beauty in a wig, and had a platinum skull ring on his little finger, the skull eyes inlaid with emeralds. He gave off a dark and terrifying aura, too. The thin boy shook the wine glass in one hand and twisted the clothes of Chuxia with the other. Then what are you here for? At 2. We're here to sell. Chuxia looked at the two men with infatuation, nibbling her bottom lip. Point 2. How could there be such good-looking boys in this world? Two young hunks, right there in front of them. This was more enjoyable than watching any TV series or blockbuster film. Point 2. Chuxia instantly imagined all the scenes of the female leads pouncing on the male leads in TV series. What should she do here? Should she pounce on his lips or pounce on his crotch? Choices, too. She stared at the thin boy's legs, and he noticed her looking at him. Point 2. The thin boy spat out a mouthful of wine. F***CK. This girl is so straight to the point. I like her personality. My name is Sikongju. What's your name? 2. Qin Sheng tugged at Chuxia. She was truly a love-struck fool. No, we're selling things. We're here to sell condoms. Looks like you guys don't need them. We won't bother you anymore. She took out a box of condoms from her bag as proof. Then she pulled Chuxia along and tried to leave. Point 2. Who said we don't need them? Sikongju said as he grabbed Qin Sheng, leering mischievously. Point 2. Qin Sheng was stunned. She looked at the 4 men in the room suspiciously. They needed the condoms? Oh, 2. So all 4 of them wanted to buy from her? Maybe this was her chance to earn some cash. Point 2. She needed to be careful, though. She didn't like how Sikongju was leering at her. Point 2. Qin Sheng's small face instantly blossomed, cheeks aglow. You guys want some? Hey, why didn't you say so earlier, too? She poured all the things in her bag onto the table. Instantly, the faces of the people around her shone with surprise, their eyes wide. Not only was there condoms, but there was also vibrating sticks, massage bombs, lube, and so on. It was practically a mobile sex supply store. Point 2. She pulled a condom from a pile of things. It seemed that these men were all rich, especially the purple-eyed man. They might be able to make Chuxia's 500 yuan back. Maybe she would make a small fortune? With the extra money, she could continue to run away from home and anger Gong Machin even more too. She looked at the words on the condom box. This is suitable for you. It's good for male couples. I also have Durex's big and small sizes. It's a European and American brand. It's a total of 150 yuan. Thank you, too. She pushed 2 boxes to the men. She was learning on the spot here. After being trained by the sex shop owner, she recited the lines by heart. Point 2. The purple-eyed man, who had been silent all this time, narrowed his mysterious eyes. The corner of his lazy lips twitched. He only uttered 2 words, "Get lost, too." How rude. So he wasn't going to buy. D*MN. Well, this had gone south very quickly. Point 2. The 2 men who'd remained silent throughout the exchange stood up. Qin Sheng presumed they were security guards. One of them said, "You're talking nonsense. Take your things and get lost like the Duke said, too." Qin Sheng was stunned. She didn't understand how she had angered the purple-eyed man. It seemed that he was the most powerful person here. Point 2. You don't like European and American sizes? Then what size would you like? I have all kinds of sizes here. Asian average size? Medium size? Her eyes sized up the purple-eyed man. He looked quite slim, but he was quite tall. Point 2. Qin Sheng hesitated for a moment. Why you want a small size, too? In an instant, the entire room fell silent. Even the temperature seemed to have dropped to freezing point. Qin Sheng didn't know what she had said wrong. Could it be that he had a small penis? Maybe she had offended him, too. Well, why don't you tell me your size? I can ask my boss if he has a special small size if you want, too. Sikong Ju could not help but laugh. Duke Liang, you've been shamed by the little girl, too. Liang's lazy eyes opened. His deep purple irises were seductive with a hint of viciousness. They landed on Qin Sheng again. Point 2. If you agree to service me, I'll buy some. In fact, I'll buy as many as you would like me to. His voice was not loud, as if talking to Qin Sheng was a waste of his energy. Point 2. Qin Sheng understood what the man meant. He wanted her in a sexual sense. Oh my. The problem wasn't he in a relationship with Sikong Ju? Why did he want her too? Well, I'm not suitable for that kind of thing. Why don't you let Sikong Ju do it instead, too? Sikong Ju looked at Liang as if he wanted to punch him. Was he jealous? Angry that Liang was showing interest in Qin Sheng, too. Oh my God, did he even dare to anger Liang? Was he not scared for his life? Liang was definitely the boss here. Point 2. No, the point was if he wanted to F***ck Liang, he wouldn't have found a girl for him, right, too? Miss, the Duke wants you. Don't reject him, Sikong Ju said through gritted teeth. Point 2. Qin Sheng looked at Sikong Ju in surprise. He was clearly angry that his boyfriend was looking for a mistress, but was trying to hide it. Point 2. Maybe he wasn't Liang's boyfriend after all, but a prostitute? It seemed like the most obvious reason for his reaction. But if Sikong Ju was a prostitute, then surely he wouldn't be angry if someone else did the physical work for him. Point 2. Qin Sheng looked at Sikong Ju with sympathy. Whether he's your boyfriend or client, you shouldn't get someone else to do the work. I'll just go. After all, I'm not prepared for it, too. Sikong Ju's expression changed again, growing darker. F***ck. He was being treated like an idiot here, too. Liang's scarlet butterfly-shaped lips trembled. F***ck. Why was this girl so sure that Sikong Ju was there to have sex with him? How could she tell? But even if that was the case, he would still try to have sex with her. He liked a challenge. Point 2. Liang pointed at Qin Sheng. I want you. Come here, too. Chu Xia's infatuated mind finally reacted, and she snapped out of her trance. The situation was getting more uncomfortable by the second. Although there was a smile on the Duke's lips, it looked terrifying, bloodthirsty almost. It was as if he wanted to eat people and drink their blood, kind of like a vampire. Point 2. We're not selling anymore. You guys continue with whatever you were doing. We won't disturb your fun any longer. Chu Xia reached out to the table to tidy up their merchandise. Point 2. A dark shadow slid down Sikong Ju's face. What have they got themselves into, too? Liang tapped the armrest of the sofa, glaring at Qin Sheng. Point 2. The other 2 men in the room, who Qin Sheng presumed were security guards, immediately stood up and surrounded her and Chu Xia. Point 2. The Duke said he wanted to buy from you. Didn't you hear him? One of the burly men who'd pulled them and said coldly point two. Qin Sheng bit her bottom lip. With these two men blocking the way out, they couldn't run away even if they wanted to. This was getting serious, too. Turning to Liang, Qin Sheng said, "Let's make a deal first. If I give you what you want, will you give me the money, too?" "Would our Duke Liang lie to you?" Sikong Ju said, while sipping his red wine, still scowling point two. "It's good that you won't go back on your word, Duke. But do you promise? Will you buy some merchandise off us if I give it to you? You must promise." Qin Sheng said determinedly point two. Sikong Ju looked at the girl who dared to speak to Liang in such a defiant tone with interest, rubbing his pointed chin point two. "I promise I will give you the money," Liang said with a wicked tone, staring at Qin Sheng point two. Qin Sheng looked down nervously. "Okay, it's a deal, too." Liang immediately raised his hand. Sikong Ju seemed to understand what he meant and pulled Chu Xia to the exit point two. "Let's go. Clear the area, too." Chu Xia struggled against Sikong Ju. "No, I want to stay with my friend, too." She didn't think it was safe to let Qin Sheng stay with the tall man. Not alone. She couldn't do it, too. Qin Sheng winked at Chu Xia, grasping her hand. "Go back to the shop and bring more goods. We might be able to make some more money, too." She'd said it deliberately and hoped Chu Xia would go and get help. At least one of them could run away, too. Chu Xia naturally knew that she couldn't go back to the shop to get more goods, as they didn't have the money to pay the deposit for them. She knew what Qin Sheng was hinting at, though. She had to get help point two. "Oh, I understand." Chu Xia immediately followed Sikong Ju out the door and then ran away point two. In the quiet room, only Qin Sheng and Liang were standing and sitting. Liang unbuttoned his suit, revealing his belt. "Come here and untie me. I want you to measure me with your hands." He leered at her, flashing his sharp teeth. "Duke, since you're a big client, I'll give you a 20% discount. It's a total of 2,500 yuan, Qin Sheng said, desperately stalling for time point two. Liang smiled sinisterly. "I'll give you 2,500 yuan, but I also want you. No ifs or buts, too." The tall man picked up Qin Sheng and threw her onto the sofa point two. She sat up from the sofa and yelled at the man, "No, please. No, I don't want to do this anymore, too." Liang took off his blazer and threw it on the sofa. His slender fingers unbuttoned the buttons of his shirt one by one. "I'm a man of my word. I'll give you the money. I made a promise, too." He was so transfixed on Qin Sheng that his narrow, purple eyes budged. He had never been fooled by anyone in his entire life, and today was no exception. He would take what he wanted from this little girl point two. Qin Sheng looked at the man who was pressing against her, her big eyes darting around, trying to think of a way out. "You're a duke, huh? You have a high position and power. You shouldn't be messing with a little commoner like me. How about this? If you think I'm charging too much, we'll count it as a loss, and I'll give you the condoms for a cheaper price. Give me 500 yuan, and we'll call it even." Two, they still had to earn back the money they had put down on the deposit. They couldn't afford to lose the 500 yuan. She held the man's hand, hoping he would agree to her terms point two. Liang's face twitched. So she could have charged him only 500 yuan, but she dared to try to take an extra 2,000 yuan from him. The cheek of her, too. "You dare to scam me? Now I'm going to punish you." There was a hint of wickedness in his tone. He pushed the girl down with his big hand, then grabbed both of her wrists and pressed her into the sofa point two. Qin Sheng dodged the man, but her hands were grabbed and she couldn't resist him point two. The man pressed down harder on her body, but she managed to lift her leg and kneed him in the crotch point two. Liang was not prepared for the girl's move. He let go of her hand, momentarily stunned. Qin Sheng took the opportunity and tried to lift a vase from the coffee table beside the sofa. She would try to smash it against his head, but it was no use. She failed. It was too far from her reach point too. Liang's hands tightened on the girl's wrist again. "Do you know what price you will have to pay today? Your deceit will not go unpunished, too." Qin Sheng saw another chance and struck him as hard as she could with her forehead. She wasn't going to give in without a fight point too. Her hands had been hurt by the man's grip, but with great effort, she managed to free one of them and reach for the vase on the table again. However, the vase slipped from her fingers and fell to the ground, breaking into pieces point two. Liang did not waste any more words and pressed himself into Qin Sheng. One of his hands dug into her shoulder. He would punish this stupid girl for besmirching him. Point two. Qin Sheng turned her head and bit the man's arm. She bit down hard and used all her strength to push her teeth into his soft flesh. Point two. Are you a dog? Let go. Liang grabbed Qin Sheng's chin with his other hand and forced her to open her mouth. Point two. A stream of blood filled Qin Sheng's mouth. She knew that she had bitten Liang and tried desperately to not let go for fear of what he might do next. Point two. Blood seeped from the ragged bite mark on Liang's muscular arm. Qin Sheng had caused him a nasty wound, that was for sure. Point two. Miss, have you heard of blood for blood? You will suffer now, he shouted fiercely. No one had ever dared to hurt him before, not until this point. She would pay dearly. Point two. Qin Sheng was trapped by the man. Just as she was thinking about how to fight for her life, there was a sound of scuffling in the corridor. The tall figure of a man rushed in, his muscles thick and hard. Point two. Liang, let her go. The man's cold voice echoed in the room, chilling Liang to the bone. Point two. Liang wanted to destroy everything in front of him. Rage gathered between his brows, a scowl burning through his face. Point two. Getting up, Liang saw the muzzle of a gun aimed at him. Point two. Gong Machin, you should lower your gun right now. I was on a hunt for you, but here you are coming to me. Liang reached out his hand and took out his own gun, aiming it at Gong Machin. Point two. Our matter has nothing to do with her. Let her go, and we'll settle our matter separately. Gong Machin said. Point two. Our matter might not have anything to do with this girl, but I still need to deal with her for her insolence towards me. This has nothing to do with you. We'll settle our matter later, once I'm done with this girl. Liang snarled. Point two. If you don't let her go, I won't hesitate to pull this trigger. Gong Machin's finger wavered over the trigger of his gun. Point two. As the two men were confronting each other, the subordinates on both sides were also fighting in the corridor. Point two. Qin Sheng got up from the sofa and slipped on Liang's blazer, the chill atmosphere making her shiver. Point two. She looked up and saw Gong Machin's sharp gaze locked on her. He looked furious. Point two. She suddenly felt relieved. Had Chu Xia called for his help? Was that why he'd come here? To rescue her? Wow. He deserved to be furious, too. The corners of her lips curved into a sly smile, almost like a fox. She continued to make her uncle angry. Yet here he was, her knight in shining armor. But this Duke fellow was pointing a gun at Gong Machin. How are they going to get out of this? What a dire situation, too. Gong Machin's gaze moved to the place beside Qin Sheng, so she turned her head and saw a few windows. An escape, too. 18 years of nurturing wasn't going to be wasted here. They had an astonishing telepathic connection. She slowly moved from the sofa towards the window, turned around, and dived through it into the street. Point two. There was an intense sound of fighting behind her. She didn't know who had won or lost. She didn't turn back, though, and ran out of the long street. Only when she was clear of the nightclub did she heave a sigh of relief. Point two. Now where was Chu Xia? Qin Sheng anxiously stomped her feet and turned around to look for her friend. She stopped still in her tracks when she saw a tall figure approaching. Point two. Qin Sheng, you've got guts, too. The man's big hand grabbed Qin Sheng's arm and easily picked her up as though she was made of feathers. Point two. Qin Sheng's hand hit the man. Gong Machin, I'm telling you, you're the one who chased me away. I'm not going back with you, even if you did just save me. Two. She screamed and flailed her arms. It wouldn't be so easy for her to go back with Gong Machin. She would make him beg her, plead with her to come back. Point two. However, the man didn't beg or plead and threw her into a car that had just pulled up. Point two. Gong Machin followed her into the car. The car sped off in a cloud of exhaust fumes, and Qin Sheng felt that she was caught on a roller coaster. She could faintly hear gunshots behind her. Point two. She turned her head and looked back. Oh no, Chu Xia, I hope you're okay too. If you have time to worry about others, you should worry about yourself first. Gong Machin said bitterly. Point two. Why should I listen to you? I didn't promise I'd come back with you. You're forcing me back. Qin Sheng raised her little head. The car was driving home, and her heart started to calm, though she still felt anger towards this man. Point two. Qin Sheng wanted to anger Gong Machin for what he had done to her yesterday. He'd thrown her to the curb and inadvertently caused all of this. The idiot, too. Gong Machin pressed the button that raised the soundproof panel to block the driver in front. He pulled off the blazer she was wearing with his big hand, opened the window, and threw out. You shouldn't be wearing other men's clothes, too. Qin Sheng blinked and clenched the thing in her hand that had fallen out of the Li Ang's blazer's pocket. She gasped in surprise when she realized what it was. Li Ang's wallet. Gong Machin could have thrown away the money that was owed to her and Chu Xiao point two. Can't you see that my clothes are torn? She quickly retorted, tugging at the skimpy outfit she wore. The cold chilled her now that she wasn't wearing the blazer point two. Gong Machin took off his blazer and threw it to Qin Sheng. You call what you're wearing clothes? Two. A wave of anger bubbled in Gong Machin's chest point two. Qin Sheng rolled her eyes. Why aren't they clothes? These are my work clothes. I have to wear them, too. You might as well be wearing nothing at all. Gong Machin's anger exploded out of him point two. He grasped at the skimpy top Qin Sheng was wearing, which easily tore at his pull. Wearing that kind of thing should be made a crime. Two. He noticed the condoms in her bag, and his anger boiled hotter. You even agreed to sell that kind of thing. Why did you agree to do that? Didn't I give you enough money to spend? What trouble you have caused me, too. Thinking of Qin Sheng selling those things made him furious, and his whole body burned and boiled with anger. She didn't realize that her pure appearance could make men lose control when she sold things like that. How naive of her! And she actually bumped into Liang to top it off point two. Luckily, Gong Machin had asked Nie Feng to follow her. If he not done that, the consequences could have been unimaginable, too. Gong Machin raised his hand at the girl. It was like she was a child again, not a grown woman. 2. Qin Sheng looked at the furious man and raised her face defiantly. Hit me then. I dare you. If you didn't chase me out in the first place, I wouldn't be selling these things, would I? I wouldn't have bumped into some duke either. If something happened, you would still blame me. Seriously? This happened all because you don't want me, Gong Machin, too? Qin Sheng roared angrily and didn't bother to protect herself. She simply kept her hands in her lap. She would just let him hit her. She didn't have the energy to fight back. Exhaustion had consumed her point too. Gong Machin violently flung his hand through the air. The air from his fingertips brushed past the girl's forehead, and a few strands of her hair were disturbed point two. In the end, Gong Machin was so angry, so frustrated, that he didn't have the energy to continue the fight. He could not bear to hit her point two. 2. The road in front of the nightclub was searched by Li Ang's bodyguards, and one of them found his blazer and ran back with a point two. Duke, I found your blazer, the bodyguard said, bowing point two. The blazer was thrown to the ground and was covered in soil. Liang looked at it in disgust and ordered, Get me the wallet inside the pocket, too. The bodyguard searched and shook the blazer and repeated this 3 times. Duke, there's no wallet, too. Liang's lips formed into a straight line. That wretched girl had put on his blazer and stolen his wallet. 2. He didn't really care about the small amount of money in the wallet. He could call the World Bank to get more any time, but he could not lose the photo inside it, too. Have you found out who the girl is? Liang asked point 2. Sikong Ju walked over. I just did. The girl's friend tried to call the police when she ran away, but my people found her. I heard her talking on the phone before we stopped her and ended the call. The girl you seek is of the Qin family and Gong Machin's niece. 2. Liang frowned. Gong Machin's niece is poor enough to sell the kind of thing she was selling? 2. I didn't initially believe it either, and I didn't think Gong Machin would come here. But when he fought with you, his life was at stake, so that proves she must be someone important to him. She must be his niece, Sikong Ju analyzed. Just a moment ago, Gong Machin and Liang fought with guns. It was a close call, and a bullet had grazed past Liang's scalp point too. It wasn't that they hadn't been skilled enough to deal with the situation, it was that they were too skilled. That was why they had been able to control the situation and intimidate Gong Machin's men without taking any lives. After all, it wasn't the time to fight with their lives on the line. That wasn't the best way to settle the score point too. Where's the Qin girl's friend now? Liang asked point 2. I saw Gong Machin's men coming, so I let her go. She had nothing to do with it anyway. Sikong Ju replied point 2. Liang snorted. You are too soft, Sikong Ju. He turned to the men behind Sikong Ju and said, Men, find out what school those girls go to. I have not settled the score with the Qin girl yet, 2. After Liang barked his order to his men, he looked down his arm. The Qin girl's bite had scabbed and looked hideous. The flesh gnarled around the edges, 2. Sikong Ju saw it. You look like you've been bitten by a stray cat. Do you want me to get you some medicine for it, 2? Now you've seen what that girl has done to me. Keep this in your mind when we settle the score. And yes, give me some medicine. Whatever the price, I'll pay it, Liang said, 2. Sikong Ju's eyes flashed with darkness, fierce and foreboding. No problem, boss. I'll leave and get some medicine now. That girl will pay for what she has done to you, 2. Leaving the nightclub, Sikong Ju drove away, determined to serve as boss, 2. Liang's men eventually found out where Miss Qin went to school and returned to him with the news, 2. He looked at the address, his lips curving into a sinister smile, and disappeared into the night like a shadow, 2. Qin Sheng's pride only lasted until they reached home. Gong Machin put her in his blazer and carried her directly into the bedroom. The night had taken its toll on her, and she was exhausted, 2. Get in the shower, then get dressed. If you dare to do that kind of work again, I'll teach you a lesson. Gong Machin growled and strode out of the bedroom, 2. Qin Sheng clasped a hand over her little heart. Did that mean she would be able to live here again? Had Gong Machin changed his mind, too? She wasn't afraid of him growing up and hadn't been frightened of him when she was young. Yes, he'd taught her several strict lessons, scolded her every now and then, but this was the only time he had truly lost his temper with her, 2. Qin Sheng found that she still had something clenched in her hand. She frowned and looked down, realizing that Liang's wallet was still in her grip, 2. She opened the wallet and looked at the banknotes inside. There weren't many banknotes. It added up to about 1,000 yuan, which was enough to cover their deposit at least. Though there wasn't much cash, there were so many cards. She glanced at a few, several black diamond cards, and even gold diamond cards. Wow, too. Only one word flashed through her mind. Rich, too. Nowadays, rich people didn't carry much physical money, notes and loose change. They had a pile of cards instead and swiped them wherever they went for whatever they wanted, 2. What's this? Qin Sheng pulled out a photo from the wallet. On it was an image of a 3- or 4-year-old girl. It seemed to be from a long time ago, its edges worn out, 2. Who was the girl on it? She blinked her eyes, 2. In a hot spring pool, Gong Machin was lying in the steaming water. He placed his arms at the entrance of the hot spring, where the water temperature was at its highest. The fight with Liang had injured the old wound on his arm, and the hot spring was one way to treat it, 2. Qin Sheng's light footsteps sounded outside the hot spring room, and her small head peeked inside, 2. The man closed his eyes and frowned slightly, thinking about something. Qin Sheng walked in. Uncle, too. She deliberately pitched her voice, but the man ignored her, 2. Nie Feng told me everything. You asked him to follow me when I left this house, too. Gong Machin opened his eagle-like eyes, emitting a cold aura. Nie Feng was courting death, revealing his plans to Qin Sheng, 2. Don't be cross with Nie Feng. I scared him with flowers. He was tending a wound in the medical room just now, and I put the flowers in front of his nose. Qin Sheng said, 2. Everyone knew that Nie Feng was the best fighter of Gong Machin's men, his martial arts unparalleled, but not many knew that he was severely allergic to pollen, the kind of allergic reaction that could potentially kill him. Qin Sheng didn't need to use martial arts to deal with him, and simply waved a flower in front of his face to achieve her goal, to get the answer she so desired, 2. You are so devious at times, Qin Sheng, Gong Machin said coldly. I despair at your behavior, too. This devious girl had been raised by him for so many years, learnt most of her skills from him, so he was unsurprised by her words, her actions, 2. I've decided to forgive you. I don't care why you chased me away. Qin Sheng sat by the hot spring and stuck her foot into the water. She raised her little face proudly. This was her magnanimous forgiveness, 2. Gong Machin got up and climbed out of the pool. His voice was so low and there was no warmth to it. I haven't forgiven you for your recent actions, 2. He strode towards the door. The devious girl had not admitted to her mistakes. How dare she try to brush her actions under the carpet as if she had done nothing wrong, too. Qin Sheng pulled her foot from the water and was about to chase after Gong Machin when she slipped and fell into the hot spring point, too. Ah! Qin Sheng screeched. She stood up and spat out a mouthful of water. The water was really hot on her skin point, too. Gong Machin darted back like an arrow and lifted Qin Sheng out of the hot spring. He looked at her nervously point, too. Did you hurt yourself? Where are you hurt? Too. Qin Sheng shook the water out of her hair. She hadn't hurt herself from falling in the hot spring. She'd only fallen into water, not concrete point, too. However, Qin Sheng turned around and leaned into the man's arms, faking a few sobs. "It hurts. Wah, too. Let me take a look." Gong Machin said anxiously point, too. Suddenly, something caught Qin Sheng's eye in the hot spring. "Uncle, what's that?" Too. She stared at the bottom of the hot spring. She was sure she'd seen a black shadow swimming through the bottom of it, almost like a ghost. A shadow point, too. Gong Machin pulled the girl up. "There's nothing there. You're seeing things. You probably hurt your head on the bottom. Come, we'll go back to my room to check you over, too." Gong Machin's face was tense. Fortunately, Qin Sheng hadn't smacked her head on the bottom, but she was sure she'd seen something in the hot spring point, too. Seeing things? Really, too? Qin Sheng was puzzled. She clearly saw something. Oh well, maybe it was a figment of her imagination. She was brought back to Gong Machin's room by him, and he insisted that she take a bath again point, too. But she'd only soaked in the hot spring for a while. Why did she need a bath, too? However, looking at the man's angry face, Qin Sheng wisely chose to listen to him point, too. When Qin Sheng came out of the bathroom, she saw Gong Machin taking out herbs and rubbing them on his arms and legs. He had gone abroad for a year, just over half a year ago. When he came back, he was covered in injuries. Although the scars had been removed with surgery, the injuries were still there. He still had to apply ointment from time to time. As for where he'd gone and what he'd done, no one knew. "Let me help you apply ointment." Qin Sheng reached out to get the ointment point, too. The man blocked her hand. "Don't touch. I'm going to take you back to the old mansion tomorrow, too." Qin Sheng was instantly enraged. "Gong Machin, F***CK. I said I'd forgiven you, and you're saying you're going to take me back to the old mansion. I won't go, too. Don't swear. Besides, if you don't do as I say, I'll teach you a lesson." Gong Machin roared angrily. He clearly wanted to educate Qin Sheng, but in the end, he sighed, shaking his head. What he'd taught her and what he was yet to teach her, this girl just wouldn't listen, no matter how hard he tried, too. Gong Machin hesitated for a moment, and then said, "I'll go to the old mansion, too." Qin Sheng's forehead puckered. He was going to the old mansion, too? Ever since he bought this villa at the age of 20, he had never gone back to the old house point, too. She felt that something was off here. What was even more wrong was that Gong Machin actually gave her his bedroom and went to sleep in the guest room himself point, too. Qin Sheng was suddenly so angry that she stood on the bed and stomped her feet into the mattress. It was obvious that he was going against her. He was going to make her go back to the old mansion, and he would leave her there point, too. "Gong Machin, why do we have to live separately? If you had the guts, you would let me live with you. Why are you doing this?" she shouted angrily point, too. Gong Machin, who had walked out of the door, heard the girl's fierce voice, and his forehead narrowed into a scowl. Why was she so obsessed with living with him? It's not like they were married point, too. However, Gong Machin knew they had lived together for too long. He sighed helplessly. It seemed that he still had a mountain to climb to make this girl stop thinking about him point, too. In the silence of the night, Qin Sheng, who was sat proudly on the bed, could no longer hold back her anger. She took out her phone and sent a message to Chu Xia. She needed to know if Chu Xia was okay after the nightclub and wanted to vent her frustrations to her point, too. "Hi, hun. Did you get home safely? I'm at Gong Machin's house now. He saved me from the Duke. I'm so frustrated with him, though. He's still not letting me live with him. How can I make him see he's making a mistake, too? Yes, I got home safely. It was very scary. I got caught at one point, but they let me go when Gong Machin turned up. Are you sure it's him that's making a mistake and not you? Maybe he has a point, too. But he was the one who chased me away and caused all this trouble. He was the one who made the mistake, not me, too. Damn, Qin Sheng. The point is that you might want to stay, but he doesn't want you to. Can't you see it? So like I said, maybe it's not him making a mistake. 2. You're being 8B asterisk TCH. Qin Sheng added an angry emoji to the end of the message. Point 2. Chu Xia sent an angry emoji back with her message. I think you're being nasty. Don't be nasty to me for trying to talk some sense into you. 2. But why can't he understand that I want to stay with him? Why am I in the wrong? I've lived with him for years. Why now do I have to live away from him? I can't give up on this. I have my pride, too. But it's no use. You can't hold onto your pride for the rest of your life. You have to admit you're making a mistake at some point. But no, you refuse to and continue to be proud. 2. Don't be like that. You're my friend. You're supposed to help me think of a way forward. If you don't help me, I'm not sure I can get your money back. 2. You could be so ruthless at times, Qin Sheng. Why can't you be more ruthless with yourself and apologize to him? Realize that you are in the wrong? You've always struggled to admit you're in the wrong since you were young. And you have to return the money to me. It's mine. After sending that message, Chu Xia immediately went offline. She was determined not to give Qin Sheng the chance to have the last word. Point 2. Sighing in frustration, Qin Sheng turned off her phone. Point 2. She didn't feel better after talking to her friend, as she usually would. She was determined to get her own way, though, no matter what Chu Xia had said. Point 2. She crawled out of bed, rushed out of the room, and headed to the guest room, entering it like a cat on the prowl. Point 2. Gong Machin slept very peacefully, like a quiet baby, his breath soft and light. Point 2. Qin Sheng stood beside the man and moved her mouth for a long time, but she didn't say a single word. What could she say? Apologize to him again? No. 2. I know you were there. I'll let you admire me for 3 minutes, and then you must go. The man's words came out from the corner of his lips, and he opened his eagle-like eyes. Point 2. Qin Sheng was shocked. That D asterisk, Min man, was pretending to be asleep. 2. In the blink of an eye, she became entranced by the man's gaze. Point 2. Well, uncle, please forgive me for the trouble I caused you with Liang, but I won't apologize for still wanting to stay here. She grabbed the man's arm and stroked it, coiling around him like a puppy. Point 2. Excuse me? Gong Machin asked coldly. This little minx had admitted her mistake and pretended to be an innocent puppy. But if he did forgive her, she would turn around and take advantage of the situation. What a dilemma he faced, too. So, I've decided to apologize to you, too. Gong Machin snorted coldly. I've taken care of you for 18 years, and it's still not enough. You still want me to take care of you for the rest of your life, too. Qin Sheng's small face darkened. Uncle, you have no taste. Why can't I take care of you for the rest of your life? Why do you have to take care of me, too? Little girl, I can see you have ambition. Okay, then. When you can manage to take care of me, I'll marry you. Now go back to sleep, joked Gong Machin, his tone teasing. Point 2. Qin Sheng hesitated. When she thought about it, maybe she wouldn't be able to take care of him. She would need to earn loads of money. She would need to work incredibly hard. Maybe it was a foolish suggestion. Point 2. Although Gong Machin was the adopted son of the Qin family, he had worked hard since he was 18 years old to help build the Qin family's group. And in less than 2 years, he had set up his own small company with a loan separate of the family's business. Several years later, not only did he have a double doctorate degree, but his company was also comparable in size to the Qin family's company. Therefore, could she really earn more money than him? Could she really support him? 2. It seemed even more mythical than a fairy tale. Point 2. Tisk, whatever, uncle, uttered Qin Sheng. Maybe now was the time to change the subject? Yes, that would be for the best. Anyway, why don't I have memories of my childhood? When she thought about her uncle and his childhood, she realized that she didn't remember much from her own younger years. Point 2. Qin Sheng had quickly changed the topic. She could not continue to talk about the possibility of her taking care of her uncle. After all, she did not have the ability to earn so much money. Point 2. Gong Machin's hand grabbed the girl's shoulder. How can you not have memories of your childhood? 2. Qin Sheng held the man's hand and felt a pain in her shoulder. Uncle, you pinched me. I just can't think of memories. I can't remember much. 2. Just then, she remembered the picture of the little girl in the Duke's wallet. She suddenly realized that she didn't know what she looked like when she was young. She could not locate her childhood memories at all. Point 2. It seemed that the beginning of her memories started when she was carried home by Gongmachin one day. Gongmachin let go of her shoulder. A person's memories of their childhood are often forgotten. Not many can remember what happened when they were young. Don't think too much into it. Go and sleep well. 2. Gongmachin patted the girl's shoulder and coaxed her to go back to her room, but when he looked down, he realized that she'd already fallen asleep on his arm. 2. He sighed helplessly and frowned. Why would Qin Sheng suddenly ask why she had no memories when she was young? Could it be that she had remembered something? 2. The girl slept very sweetly, but the man's frown did not loosen. The next morning, Qin Sheng woke up, stretching and yawning widely. There was no trace of Gongmachin by her side, but still, her nose was filled with his pleasant smell. 2. She took a deep breath, satisfied that she had successfully slept in his bed. Did this count as them reconciling? Had he fully forgiven her? 2. She climbed out of bed and had a wash. Then she skipped downstairs to eat breakfast. 2. Gongmachin sat at the dining table and scrolled through his phone. Seeing the girl run downstairs, he ordered the chef to prepare some breakfast. 2. Qin Sheng hugged the man's neck and lowered her head, wanting to kiss him. The man turned his head to avoid her, but she still managed to kiss his well-defined cheek. 2. Uncle, why aren't you at work yet? She sat down, scooped up the cream soup served by the chef, and sipped it. 2. Didn't I tell you that we're going back to the Qin family's old mansion today? We'll leave after we finish eating, Gongmachin said. 2. All the delicious food lost its taste in Qin Sheng's mouth, including her favorite cream soup, a bitter tang lingering on her tongue. 2. Regardless of whether she was willing or not, after she finished her breakfast, she was brought back to the Qin family's old mansion by Gongmachin. 2. As soon as she entered the living room, Qin Sheng heard her cousin Qin Yunting's harsh voice. I thought it was you. Didn't you say that you wouldn't come back to the Qin family's old mansion? You said you'd rather die than come back here from what I can remember. Qin Yunting rolled her eyes at Qin Sheng. 2. Qin Sheng's lips curved into a harmless smile. Yes, I said I wouldn't come back to the Qin family's old mansion. But of course I would come back if I was faced with death. Do you want me to die or something? 2. F***CK. Qin Yunting often dared to bully her. Let's see how far she would go, too. Qin Sheng hated Qin Yunting's tacky face, which was covered in so much makeup, though she pretended that she didn't wear any. 2. Qin Yunting's face turned pale. In front of other people, she didn't dare to say that she hoped Qin Sheng would die, even though the girl was very unpopular with her grandparents. 2. It's good that you're back. But why are you so willful, Qin Sheng? You disappeared, causing the family's bodyguards to search for you all night. Your grandparents are not young anymore. You do realize? How are they supposed to withstand your behavior? No matter how mischievous you are, you should know the most basic piety, right? 2. The person who'd spoken was dressed in a conservative gray pantsuit. Her hair was curled in big waves. From head to toe, she looked exquisite. 2. Qin Sheng looked up at the woman who'd spoken with a fake smile on her face. She was speechless at her **tch of an aunt, Qin Zixian. Her aunt could always come up with a bunch of big theories and beat her down so badly. And then Qin Sheng could not find any reason to refute her claims. 2. So, they've been looking for her for a whole night? Seriously, 2. Why didn't she know that the bodyguards of the Qin family were looking for her? She was a bit worried. Why hadn't her aunt called Gongmachin? Her aunt could be lying to make her feel even worse. 2. She had slept with Gongmachin for a whole night, but she didn't hear his cell phone ring. Perhaps her aunt had been hoping that she was lost or dead, too. Aunt is right. I'm the one who is insensible, and I'm sorry if I made my grandparents who love me so worried. I climbed out of the window in the middle of the night. But then why did you come to my room in the middle of the night to look for me? What made you do that in the first place, too? Qin Zixian's face turned pale. Of course, she wouldn't go to Qin Sheng's room in the middle of the night. She was just seizing the opportunity to teach her niece a lesson. But how was she going to explain why she went snooping in Qin Sheng's room in the middle of the night? 2. Forget it, Zixian. Qin Sheng is your niece no matter what. Even if she has made a mistake, you can teach her a lesson slowly. He funds Qin Sheng's grandma. Words helped her daughter out of the predicament. She didn't have to explain herself now. 2. Qin Sheng was pushed forward by Gong Watchen. She walked over to her grandma, unwillingly. Hello, Grandma, too. This elderly lady wasn't her biological grandmother. She was the wife of her grandfather, who had remarried. However, her second uncle and Annie were both born to this grandma. They were more like a family. She felt like an outsider. Point two. Hifa nodded her old head. Have you eaten? Nanny Zhang. Is there any leftovers in the kitchen? Two. Leftovers. At least they cared about her hunger. Point two. Thank you for thinking of me, Grandma. You guys should keep the leftovers. Uncle and I have eaten cream soup, macaroons, and black forest cake at home, Qin Sheng said loudly, as if to make a point. Point two. She suddenly realized that there was a benefit to coming back to the old family mansion. If anyone made her unhappy, she could make them unhappy in return. How devious of her. Ha too. Ethan's face was tense. You might have eaten, but I still want the chef to cook for you. You guys are going to school tomorrow, right? Too. Yunting, go and help your cousin with her homework. It's going to be the college entrance exam soon. No matter what, our family can't have people who can't get into university. Our family is a prestigious family. After all, too. Qin Yunting immediately became energetic. She stood up and walked toward Qin Sheng. Let's go. I'll help you with your homework. Hee hee. Don't you know there's still time for me to help you? 2. Qin Zixian walked over and held Gong Machen's arm. Third brother, let's go to work. Dad told me that you promised to let me be your secretary. 2. Qin Sheng turned to look at her aunt, surprised. She was going to be Gong Machen's secretary, too. She was furious. Her eyes burned with anger. Uncle. Before Qin Sheng could finish her sentence, Gong Machen's words interrupted her. Go and do your homework with Yunting. If you fail the monthly exam again, I shall teach you a valuable lesson, too. Third brother, let's go, or we'll be late. Qin Zixian urged Gong Machen out of the room, not wanting to see the man and Qin Sheng say another word to each other. Point 2. This was eye-opening for Qin Sheng, but no matter how she looked at it, it sounded so dodgy. Her aunt clearly wanted to be closer to Gong Machen. Point 2. Qin Sheng stomped her foot. That damn man. He'd actually said that her aunt didn't want to be with him. But then why had Aunt Zixian not gone to work at the Qin Corporation after graduating from university and instead went to work as Gong Machen's secretary now? It was glaringly obvious. She wanted to be with him, too. He's already gone. Why are you still looking for him? Are you going to revise and do your homework or not? If not, I'll call Uncle and tell him. Qin Yunting knew what was the most effective way to threaten Qin Sheng. Point 2. Qin Sheng rolled her eyes. Even if you did call Uncle, I wouldn't be scared. You're scared of him, though, I can tell, too. She carried her backpack and traipsed into the study room. She threw her backpack onto the desk with a thud, and then threw herself onto the swivel chair and crossed her legs on the desk. Point 2. Qin Yunting couldn't stand Qin Sheng's scruffy ways, and she couldn't stand Qin Sheng's t-shirt and jeans. In comparison, Qin Yunting always wore a lace dress and was as noble as a princess in a fairy tale story. Point 2. Don't you dare say you're my cousin when you go out. How embarrassing. Look at the state of you, Qin Yunting said in disgust. Point 2. Qin Yunting wished they weren't the same age, but their birthdays were only 2 months apart. It was a shambles that they were in the same class together, in Qin Yunting's opinion. Anyway. Point 2. Don't help me with my homework if you think I'm embarrassing. Get lost. Qin Sheng shouted. Point 2. Qin Yunting was so angry, and she glared at Qin Sheng. Who are you telling to get lost? Do you think I want to teach you? With your grades, my grandfather said that the Qin family has never had someone with such bad grades in the family. The IQ of a little child who follows its mother. Only your mother, too. Suddenly, Qin Sheng jumped up from the swivel chair, picked up a paperweight, and swung out at Qin Yunting. I dare you to F*** say that again, too. The eldest daughter, Qin Yunting, was so scared and dodged backwards. The paperweight was aimed straight at her head. Qin Sheng had always been a person who dared to do anything, so would surely smash her head and given the chance, too. What did I say? I didn't say anything. I just said that you follow your mother's IQ. You can go online and check it out. IQ tests were developed by a scientist, she hurriedly explained. Point 2. Qin Sheng snorted coldly and put away the paperweight. So, Qin Yunting thought she was bad at her studies, and it seemed her grandfather did too. Great, too. Maybe it was because she didn't want to do well in the exams. She enjoyed her studies. However, when Gong Machin had gone abroad, she'd wanted to use all kinds of methods to force him to come back. In the end, she started doing bad in her studies. Her academic results had plummeted from then on, and her uncle had finally returned point two. She liked being cared for and taught by her uncle. If she did well in the exams, would there even be any benefits? However, Qin Yunting was cunning, nasty. She didn't know her true ambitions, too. The key was to get her uncle wrapped her finger again. She wanted him in the palm of her hand point two. What are you studying for anyway? Hurry up and say it. Qin Sheng asked her cousin point two. Qin Yunting covered her heart with her hand, her fingers trembling. She wanted to punch Qin Sheng in the face point two. Reviewing extracts, making notes, and writing things down, she said as she took out a few notebooks from the drawer of the desk and threw them on the table. Copy the notes out of these books. Also, do the English words too, and then try the maths exercises. That's all. I have something to do now, so I'm going out. I'll check your homework when I get back, too. She raised her head proudly and walked out of the study. When she closed the door, she quietly locked it. This was payback for Qin Sheng attacking her, who was having the last laugh now, too. As far as Qin Yunting was concerned, Qin Sheng's mother was a princess of a nightclub, aka a prostitute, and Sheng was a SL*T herself point two. Qin Sheng glared at her cousin as she left of the room, knocking her fingers on the table to help funnel her anger away. She wouldn't let her Qin Yunting get to her. That would be admitting defeat point two. She needed help with her homework, but wouldn't ask Qin Yunting for help, not after what she'd said. She was sure that Qin Yunting had gone on a date with their schoolmate, Husky point two. Her eyes flashed with a crafty twinkle. She opened her notebook and began to write. Autumn thoughts in the clear sky. 2. Withered vines, old trees, the faint cawing of crows, too. She copied down the poem Qin Yunting had written in her notebook. The teacher would be dumbfounded when he saw her homework tomorrow, too. Time passed by under the tip of her pen. At noon, she finished her homework and got up to go to the restaurant for lunch. Only then did she realize that she was locked in by Qin Yunting. The B*TCH too. Oh my God, did Yunting mean to stop her from eating, too? She didn't bother calling to anyone to open the door. In this house, her words were as effective as those of a servant. Even if she did call out, no one would care about her point two. Her stomach was growling. It didn't feel good to be hungry. Qin Sheng thought of something. She stepped to the table and reached for the lower cupboard. As expected, it was full of glorious snacks point two. In order to make sure her daughter had a gorgeously slim figure, second, Aunt Zhengmin never let Qin Yunting eat snacks. However, Qin Sheng once found that Qin Yunting hid some snacks in this room point two. Maybe she should relieve her cousin of these snacks? Gorge on them right now? That would certainly teach Yunting a lesson for locking her in this room. The corners of her lips curved upwards slyly. That would certainly make Qin Yunting scream in shock when she found out, too. While she was lying comfortably on the sofa, chewing the salty potato chips, grabbing the gooey chocolate, and licking the light cream on the cake, the voices of her grandfather and grandmother came from outside the door point two. Why'd you come back so late? Machin brought Qin Sheng back today, Hefen said point two. A dead silence followed. Qin Sheng could imagine the expression on her grandfather's face. Her father had died in a car accident when he rushed to the hospital to be at her birth, so her grandfather thought that she had killed his eldest son point two. The pain of losing his son made him not even allow Qin Sheng to call him by the name on the genealogy. According to the genealogy, she should be called Qin Yin Sheng too. However, Qin Sheng didn't care if she didn't have the word Yin in her name because her uncle had named her Sheng. Gong Machin had named her Sheng. It meant victory, and Machin said she was a victory over death, living through the deaths of her parents. Her uncle said that Sheng had its own rhyme, and she didn't need that other word point two. After a while, her grandfather Qin Zai's voice was heard. Oh, that little girl is back. He sighed deeply point two. Qin Sheng pursed her lips and took a bite of the cake. Qin Zai's tone was as if there was an additional servant or an unimportant person in the house. Qin Sheng doesn't matter. We'll just raise her for a few more years and then marry her off to someone. However, Machin isn't young anymore, and it's time for him to get married now. What I mean is, we should tell Machin to marry Qin Zixin. The scale of his company is getting bigger and bigger. We, the Qin family, have trained him. We can't let outsiders benefit, so he must marry Zixin. Ethan held on to Qin Zhe's arm as she spoke. Point two. Qin Sheng jumped up from the sofa and rushed to the door. She pressed her ear against the wood, wanting to hear her grandfather's reply. Point two. Yes, it's for the best, too. What was that he said? Oh gosh, she'd missed it. Qin Sheng was stuck to the door, so she didn't fully hear her grandfather's words. They'd been mumbled through the wood. Point two. However, from the meaning of the words she had heard, it was clear that her grandfather had agreed to He Fan's suggestion to marry her aunt to Gong Machin. 2. Qin Sheng kicked the door. Damn it, her aunt was going to steal her man, too. Suddenly, Qin Zhe's voice called from the corridor, loud and clear. What was that sound, too? It's me. Cousin Yunting locked me in the study. She was being mean, Qin Sheng said, loudly from behind the door. She scrambled back and quickly shoved away the empty food bags. Point two. Damn it. She wanted to slap Qin Yunting for locking her in here, and she wanted to go to Gong Machin to stop him from marrying her aunt. He was her man, even if he didn't see it yet. Someone open that door. What's going on? Is there lynching going on in our house? Qin Zhe questioned Hefan coldly. Point two. Hefan's expression instantly turned grim. Qin Zhe was the head of the family, and no one dared to disobey his orders. What worried her the most was that Qin Sheng's imprisonment would implicate her granddaughter. Her darling granddaughter, too. The servant quickly took out the spare key and opened the door. Point two. Qin Sheng banged on the door and in a loud voice said, Thank you, grandfather, for saving me. Otherwise, I could have been trapped and I might have starved to death, too. Where's Yunting? Let her out now. Qin Zhe's tone was heavy. Point two. Master, don't listen to Qin Sheng's nonsense. You know how bad Qin Sheng's homework is, how she lies. I asked Yunting to help her review her homework. Yunting locked her in a room because she was afraid that she wouldn't finish her work and would run away. After all, what did she rank last time in her exams? She needed the discipline. Hefan explained quickly. Point two. Qin Zhe's cold eyes landed on Qin Sheng's face as she came sheepishly out of the room. His face darkened. Go into my study, too. Qin Sheng closed her eyes and sighed. She complained about Qin Yunting locking her in the room, but Hefan had complained about her first. She could only follow Qin Zhe into the study. Point two. Hefan watched Qin Zhe take Qin Sheng away and finally breathed a sigh of relief. She took out her phone and called Qin Yunting. Yunting, come back quickly. Your grandfather knows about you locking up Qin Sheng, too. If he knows, then he knows. Anyway, grandfather doesn't like her. Why would he take her side? Qin Yunting said unhappily. Point two. But what if grandfather does take her side? Qin Sheng said you locked her up for being mean. You need to defend yourself. Hurry up and come back now. Hefan said anxiously. Point two. If it weren't for Qin Zhe's acquiescence, Gong Machin wouldn't have been able to raise Qin Sheng like a princess, too. This was what she was most worried about. Qin Zhe's attitude towards Qin Sheng was cold, but there seemed to be a soft streak at times, which made her feel that Qin Zhe wasn't as heartless to Qin Sheng as he seemed on the surface. Point two. I'll come back now. Qin Yunting cursed Qin Sheng and reluctantly said goodbye to her boyfriend. Point two. In the study, Qin Sheng stood in front of the desk and looked at her grandfather, who was sitting opposite her, unconvinced. She didn't owe him anything. Why did he treat her with such contempt? As for her father's death, she was the victim, right too? Qin Zhe flipped through the exam paper that Qin Sheng had been working on and threw it on the table. He looked at Qin Sheng, scowling. Her stubborn personality was very much like her father's, and her face was very much like her mother's, too. I didn't write down the basic questions, but I got the additional questions right, said Qin Sheng sheepishly. Point two. Qin Sheng's heart lurched in her chest. She didn't expect her grandfather to look at her exam paper. The additional questions were usually the most complicated and difficult ones. She liked to challenge herself with difficult questions. She was sure she'd answered them correctly. However, it seemed that she couldn't make sense of all the basic questions and had left them blank. She hesitated and didn't know what to say to Qin Zhe. Then Qin Zhe stood up and walked out of the study. Point 2. You will stand here until you understand obedience. That is your punishment for not finishing your work, said Qin Zhe, his words floating behind him as he left. Point 2. 2. After a long time, the clock ticking away in the background, Qin Sheng only wanted to curse. She was standing like a stone, and Gong Machin hadn't come back yet. Point 2. She rubbed her cramping leg. It seemed that her grandfather was determined to punish her. Only Gong Machin could save her from this situation. Qin Sheng, too. A girl's sharp voice echoed behind Qin Sheng. She didn't need to turn around to know that Qin Yunting had returned. Point 2. Cousin, you're back so soon? Why are you so angry? TSK, unsatisfied women always have a bad temper. Qin Sheng said. Point 2. Qin Yunting's face turned red. Who's unsatisfied? Only a dirty person like you would have such dirty thoughts, too. Qin Sheng sneered. A girl might look innocent on the surface, but they had usually done a lot of dirty things. Point 2. You call me dirty and say I have dirty thought, but I wonder how many times you've done dirty things? Oh, cousin, don't act so innocent all the time. Qin Yunting almost choked and couldn't say a word for a moment. Then she changed the subject and said, You ate all the snacks I hid. I'll get you back for this, too. Oh, does cousin really hide snacks? I don't know if second it knows. It's okay, though. If you want to complain, go ahead. Qin Sheng looked at Qin Yunting deviously. Point 2. Qin Yunting clenched her fists into tight balls. Qin Sheng had backed her into a corner. Damn it. If her mother found out, she would have no place to hide snacks in the future. Point 2. Just you wait, Qin Sheng, she said fiercely and turned to leave. Point 2. Qin Sheng pursed her lips. She had eaten her cousin's snacks and scribbled all over her homework. That was enough revenge for her, too. When the big bell in the study rang, Qin Sheng saw that it was 6 o'clock in the evening. Point 2. Qin Zhe walked into the study and sat on his executive-style chair. An arrogant expression spread on his face. Point 2. Have you learned your lesson? Qin Zhe asked. Point 2. Qin Sheng didn't know what to say for a moment, mouth opening and closing. He clearly wanted her to start doing well with her homework, wanted her to fall in line and become an angel. Point 2. Yes, I've learned my lesson, too. Learned her lesson, huh? She wanted Gong Machin most of all, no matter what price she had to pay. It was that simple. Point 2. Qin Zhe raised his hand. If you've learned your lesson, do what you want to do. I won't stop you. But remember, you're a grown-up now. No matter what you do, you have to bear the consequences. Now come out and eat, too. Qin Sheng was dumbfounded. Did her grandfather know that she wanted her uncle? And he'd actually said she could do what she wanted to do, but there would be consequences. Point 2. When Qin Sheng arrived at the restaurant, everyone was seated. Qin Zhe and Hefan sat in the main seats. The first seat on their left was empty. It was for second uncle, but he wasn't here. Then there was second Aunt Zhengmin and her daughter, Qin Yunting, to their right. Qin Zixian and Gong Machin were sat next to each other, too. Let's eat, too. Following Qin Zhe's instructions, everyone picked up their chopsticks. Qin Sheng sat beside Gong Machin. She scooped some rice from the bowl and looked at Qin Zixian. She didn't know what Qin Zixian whispered in Gong Machin's ear, but she saw Qin Zixian giggling coquettishly. And Qin Zixian kept serving food to Gong Machin. Point 2. Qin Sheng's heart suddenly sank. Qin Zixian had only been Gong Machin's secretary for one day, but she was already much closer to Gong Machin now. Her little heart twisted in pain. Point 2. With her feet on the ground, she quietly took off her shoes and kicked Gong Machin's leg. Point 2. Gong Machin turned his head and glared at the small woman, while the girl looked back at him with an innocent expression spread on her face. She smiled impishly, as if the little devil who was causing trouble wasn't her, too. Qin Sheng. Gong Machin's words came out from between his teeth. Point 2. Uncle, what's the matter? Qin Sheng batted her fluttery eyelashes. She didn't believe he would dare to say anything in front of the rest of the family. Point 2. Didn't I teach you the rules? Sit up straight. Gong Machin hissed. Point 2. Oh, Uncle, what's wrong? Why is your face so red? Qin Sheng asked, grinning from ear to ear. Gong Machin's eyes focused on the little vixen beside him, who had an innocent look of concern on her face. Qin Zixian also noticed Gong Machin's change in behavior. Yes, third brother, why is your face so red, and are you sweating, too? The room is a little stuffy and the weather is hot. I'll just take off my blazer. Gong Machin stood up as he spoke, taking off his blazer and kicking Qin Sheng's little feet away. Point 2. Qin Zixian took the man's blazer and handed it to the servant beside her. Was it really hot today? The air conditioning made the room feel cool. Strange, too. Third brother, eat this. I asked them to make it for you. She scooped out a bowl of soup for the man. Point 2. Qin Sheng, you must eat too. Qin Yunting gave Qin Sheng some food in a rough manner. She didn't give Qin Sheng the soup, but bitter melons. It was a large pile of dark green bitter melons. What was she trying to say? Was she trying to get her own back? 2. She looked at Qin Sheng with a false smile. Qin Sheng had eaten her snacks, and she hadn't vented her anger yet. 2. My Yunting is very sensible and knows how to take care of our cousin. Zheng Min seized the opportunity and praised her daughter in front of Qin Zhe. Point 2. Qin Sheng's brows furrowed. She had never been picky about her food, but there was one thing that she really did not like to eat: bitter melon. The plate of bitter melons was only served with fried shrimp by Qin Yunting. It was clear that she was deliberately looking to cause trouble. Point 2. Qin Yunting said, Qin Sheng, why aren't you eating? Are you still angry with me? For goodness sake. I'll lock you in the study for the sake of your studies. Grandma, I don't care about Qin Sheng anymore. Look at her holding a grudge against me, too. Qin Sheng closed her eyes. Gosh, she hadn't even said a word to her cousin. Qin Yunting had obviously acted out the scene for their grandparents' attention. She clearly wanted to receive their praise, get them on her side. Qin Sheng sighed deeply. Point 2. Qin Sheng prodded a piece of bitter melon with her chopstick. I should really hate you for locking me in the study, but I don't. But if cousin locks me in again, I don't think I'll come out. She was still full from the snacks she'd chomped on earlier and pushed the bowl away. I'm feeling full now. That's why I'm not going to eat anymore, too. Qin Yunting almost spat out her food at Qin Sheng's remarks. No wonder she was still full. She'd eaten every single one of her snacks. That damned Qin Sheng. She always liked to cause trouble. She was an attention seeker. Point 2. Qin Zixian looked like a saintess. Our Qin family never leaves leftovers. We are a civilized family, too. She picked up a bitter melon and ate it elegantly. Qin Sheng lowered her eyes. Qin Zixian was obviously scolding her for not being worthy of being a part of the Qin family. She had never cared about Qin Sheng, too. Qin Sheng raised her hand and picked up the bitter melon in her bowl and gave it to Gong Machin. She blinked her big eyes, looking as cute as ever. Point 2. Uncle, I'll give you your favorite bitter melon, too. Gong Machin glared at the little girl, always acting cute in front of him. Did she just kick him again, too? They'd eaten and slept together for 18 years now, and after being together for that long, their tastes were strangely similar. She didn't like to eat things that he didn't like. Point 2. Gong Machin picked up the half-eaten bitter melon and ate it. Point 2. Qin Zixian looked at Gong Machin in surprise. She remembered that when they'd ordered lunch at noon, Niefeng had told her that Gong Machin didn't have any dislikes other than bitter melon. Point 2. Qin Sheng, you can be so unruly at times. Why did you give third brother your leftovers? You're very disrespectful. Qin Zixian's tone carried her anger. How could Gong Machin eat Qin Sheng's half-eaten bitter melon? His lips had touched where her lips had been. It disgusted her. Point 2. Qin Sheng's lips curved into a crescent moon. Auntie, I know we are such a well-bred family, but I want to respect my elders. Little uncle loves to eat bitter melons, and cousin gave me almost all the bitter melons on the plate. How could I eat them all by myself? Of course I have to show respect to little uncle and give him some. Uncle, don't you think so? 2. Gong Machin's face turned green from eating the bitter melons. Damn that little vixen for her trickery. But he had to continue with the charade, make out that he liked the bitter melons, or else Qin Sheng could be punished by the family. Point 2. Well, my niece is very respectful towards me. I thank her for that. At least I didn't raise her for so many years in vain, too. Little uncle, you flatter me. Please eat more. Qin Sheng smiled evilly and picked up the bitter melons on the plate for Gong Machin to eat. She was loving this, too. Gong Machin picked up the last of the bitter melons and gave it to Qin Sheng. Good niece, your heart aches when you see me eat all the bitter melons, right? Little uncle left one for you. He fed the bitter melon to Qin Sheng. Let's see if she still dares to cause trouble now, he thought, grinning to himself. Point 2. Qin Zixian's eyebrows were almost raised to her hairline. Gong Machin had fed Qin Sheng the bitter melon as if she were a goodness. Her hand almost broke the chopsticks. Point 2. The melon was so bitter on Qin Sheng's tongue. It was that bitter it almost made her cry. After this lesson, she didn't dare to kick Gong Machin anymore. Point 2. Qin Sheng wanted to throw up after the meal. Nothing could remove the bitter taste in her mouth. Point 2. Gong Machin got up and went back to his bedroom to take a shower. His mind was filled with the Qin Sheng's aggrieved look while eating the bitter melon. Point 2. Qin Sheng quietly slipped into Gong Machin's room. Her mouth was still full of bitterness. She wanted to settle the score with her uncle. Point 2. Suddenly, the bathroom door was pushed open and the man walked out. His hand, which was holding a towel to dry his hair, stopped. Why are you here? Go to your own room. Gong Machin lowered his voice. Point 2. Qin Sheng stood in front of the man and said, Why did you feed me that bitter melon when you know I hate them? My mouth is full of bitterness now. You bully me so. You have to be responsible, too. Qin Sheng grabbed the man's hand and shook his arm. Point 2. Gong Machin looked down at the girl. If your mouth is bitter, go eat some candy or a mint, too. No, eating candy makes you fat. But I heard a kiss can make it better. Qin Sheng raised her head and pouted. Point 2. I ate more of the bitter melon than you did. If I kiss you, you will suffer even more. Now go back to your room. Gong Machin ordered. Point 2. Qin Sheng stood on her tiptoes and hooked her arms around the man's neck. Then I will help to relieve your pain. Suddenly, a few knocks on the door made them separate from each other. Point 2. Third brother, are you there? 2. Qin Sheng was furious. Why did Aunt Zixian have to come at this time? She was so close to her dream, too. Gong Machin immediately lurched back. He grabbed the girl's arm and pulled her into the bathroom. Then he took his bathrobe off the back of the door and put it on. Point 2. Don't move, he snapped at the girl, closing the bathroom door. Point 2. Qin Sheng heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, her aunt didn't storm in, or else she would have seen her. Point 2. She leaned against the wall and listened to the noises outside. Why had her aunt come in here so late? Was that a good thing? What did she want of Gong Machin? 2. Gong Machin opened the door to the room. Qin Zixian looked at the man standing in the door. He was wearing a white bathrobe, revealing half of his chest and his firm pectoral muscles. Point 2. Qin Zixian blushed at the sight of Gong Machin, then quickly shook her head and presented the document in her hand. She lowered her gaze and said, Third brother, there is something I don't understand about the terms of this contract. I'd like to ask your opinion on it, too. The woman's voice was gentle and pleasant, as gentle as a pool of spring water. It's too late today. I'll explain it to you tomorrow at the company offices, Gong Machin said in a deep voice. Point 2. Tomorrow? But the people in the office told me that the contract has to be sorted out today. I need it for tomorrow when I discuss it with the client, Qin Zixian said. Point 2. Then wait a moment. I'll change in my clothes and we'll go to the study, Gong Machin said. Point 2. There's no need to go through so much trouble. I'll come into your room and you can explain it to me here. Qin Zixian walked into the man's room without further explanation. Point 2. Gong Machin frowned. He wanted to change into his clothes, but Qin Sheng was in the bathroom and Qin Zixian was in the room. Alas, he would have to stay in the bathrobe and quickly explain the contract to Qin Zixian. Point 2. What don't you understand, 2? It's this clause. Why don't we ask for a little more deposit? I want to increase the deposit so that we can guarantee that the other party won't go back on their word after signing the contract. Third brother, sit down, too. Qin Zixian reached out and grabbed the man's arm. The body lotion on his body emitted an alluring fragrance, making her want to get close to him. The state recognizes and protects 20% of the deposit. No matter how high we set it, it's useless. After all, it's not protected by the law. As long as we deal with the prosecution, we have to refund the money, Gong Machin explained. Point 2. Qin Zixian's eyes focused on the man's well-defined face. Gong Machin didn't wait for the woman to reply and continued. If you understand now, go back to sleep. I don't want you to be late tomorrow. Qin Zixian awkwardly pursed her lips and stood up. It hadn't been easy for her to enter Gong Machin's room. So what could she do to make it so that she didn't have to leave? 2. She could pull a fast one, that's what. Qin Zixian's feet slipped from beneath her, and she fell into the man's body. Point 2. Ah, third brother, I sprained my ankle. She grabbed the man's arm and leaned against his body. Point 2. Gong Machen's arm supported the woman and pulled her up so she didn't lean on him. Sprained your ankle? Let me help you sit down and call a doctor for you. 2. Qin Zixian's forehead creased. No need. It's not that serious. Third brother, do you have safflower oil? Can you help me apply some? 2. Qin Zixian added weakly. We won't be able to call a doctor at this time. It's too late, too. Gong Machen helped Qin Zixian to sit on the bed and went to get the safflower oil. Here's the safflower oil. I'll get Sister Yu to come and apply it on you. 2. Third brother, it'll be quicker if you apply the safflower oil. It will take time for Sister Yu to come here, so you can do it, brother, Qin Zixian said. Point 2. Qin Sheng, who was still in the bathroom, heard everything clearly. Was saying her aunt was, too. She turned away, casually picked up the resin soap box on the sink, and threw it on the ground. Point 2. Bang, 2. Qin Zixian, who was still on the bed, was shocked, and her gaze darted to the bathroom. Who's in the bathroom? 2. No one is in the bathroom. You're hearing things. It's the sound of next door, Gong Machen explained quickly. He couldn't let Qin Zixian find Qin Sheng in his room, or Qin Sheng would be in an even worse situation in this house. Point 2. It didn't sound like next door, Qin Zixian said in confusion. Point 2. What was next door? The soundproofing here isn't good. Next door is second sister-in-law's room, Gong Machen said. Point 2. Qin Zixian frowned. What on earth was second sister-in-law doing to make such a racket? It had been very loud. Qin Sheng rolled her eyes, picked up the mouthwash cup, and threw it on the ground. A thought formed in her mind then. Qin Sheng actually hoped her aunt would find her. Then maybe everyone would see that Gong Machen was her man. 2. The sound was louder this time. Qin Zixian shot up from the bed. She was sure that she hadn't heard wrong this time. The sound came from the bathroom. There was no question. Point 2. Who was hiding in the bathroom? Come out. Qin Zixian rushed to the bathroom door angrily. Point 2. The hamster that Qin Sheng brought is in the bathroom. It probably got out of its cage, Gong Machen said hurriedly. Point 2. Ah, hamster. Qin Zixian immediately stopped and screeched as if she had seen a ghost. She hated those furry four-legged things, too. It's a hamster. I'll go in and catch it and show you, Gong Machen said as he walked to the bathroom. Point 2. Ah, no, it's okay. Qin Zixian was so scared that she ran out of the bedroom. Her speed was as fast as an Olympic sprinter. Point 2. Bah, you sprained your ankle? You sprained your ankle faster than a rabbit? Qin Sheng walked out of the bathroom and said angrily. Gong Machen closed the door and his lips formed into a straight line. You made a sound on purpose. Qin Sheng, have you no shame? You deliberately wanted Zixian to find you in my room, too. Qin Sheng raised her little face. Leave me alone, uncle. Little auntie ran into your room and even pretended to sprain her ankle for your attention. She's the one who doesn't know shame, too. Little auntie clearly wants to marry you, and that's why you chased me away the other day. You chased me away because you want to marry Annie. You big liar. You lied to me, too. She shook her little fist and punched the man's chest, crying out in anguish. Point 2. You're mine. I won't let anyone take you away. I won't, too. Gong Machen looked at the crying little face in front of him, and his heart ached. I didn't lie to you. I didn't ask you to leave because of Qin Zixian. Please don't cry. Settle down, too. His anger was extinguished at the sight of Qin Sheng's tears. How could he bear to see her cry? 2. Qin Sheng took the opportunity to hook her arm around the man's neck. Uncle, I want you to love me, pamper me, and love me for the rest of your life. I want to be your woman. The girl's breath was so soft against his cheek, like an angel's breath. She had been carefully brewed for 18 years and was now popping like a champagne cork. Point 2. All of Gong Machen's rationality went out of the window. Point 2. The man who was usually so hard and strict had turned obedient like a harmless baby. Point 2. You really want to be my woman, too? Qin Sheng's head was dizzy. His voice was a little hoarse, and it was even more exciting than a piano in D major. It made her breath quicken, and she really wanted him right now. She wanted all of him. Point 2. Yes, yes. She nodded her little head. Point two. For 18 years, the only goal she had set for herself was to become Gong Machen's wife. Gong Machen's big hand touched the girl's messy bangs, revealing her flushed face, which was surging with emotions. The girl's fragrance gushed out of her, causing his heart to palpitate violently. Point two. Qin Sheng closed her eyes tightly, her brows furrowing. What she feared the most was the pain of losing Gong Machen. She had been sick since she was young, and the injections made her wail. They had been the most painful thing she had ever experienced, but right now she would gladly accept the pain of those injections over losing Gong Machen. Point two. The girl's torturous cries made Gong Machen's expression soften. He was so scared. Did he really want to be this woman? He shook his head. No, he couldn't give in to his desires. It wasn't right, no matter how much he wanted it. Point two. Gong Machen pinched Qin Sheng's chin. We can't think about such nonsense. That is not our future. You're still young. You'll learn that this is not meant to be when you grow older. It's not right, little niece. Two. Qin Sheng got up aggrievedly. She didn't dare to say anything more and walked out of Gong Machen's room. At the end of the corridor, a woman's figure flashed past and watched Qin Sheng run into her own room from Gong Machen's room. The woman's hands were clenched into fists. She'd suddenly woken up from a turbulent sleep, the hamster haunting her dreams, and felt that things weren't right in the house. She ran to Qin Sheng's guest room, and, just as she had guessed, there had been no one in the room. Two. After that, she stood in the corridor and waited. Sure enough, she watched Qin Sheng running out of Gong Machen's room. The devious little B***TCH. Two. Zixian, if your father sees you standing here dressed like this, he will scold you. Ethan came over and saw her daughter in pajamas. She was disgusted at her attire. Point two. What's wrong with dressing like this? Qin Zixian said in annoyance. Point two. Are you a commoner? When did our Qin family's Miss Zixian become so uncivilized? Ethan was speechless by her daughter's brash manner. Point two. What's the use of being civilized? It's better to act like a SL**T. Just now, Qin Sheng came out of Gong Machen's room. The little vixen is as good at seducing men as her mother, Qin Zixian said angrily. Point two. Don't mention her mother in this house. Your father said we are not allowed to mention her anymore. Ethan stopped her daughter. Point two. Qin Zixian ignored her mother and changed the subject. I told you to tell father to marry me to Gong Machen. Did you tell him? She asked. Point two. Ethan scanned the corridor to see that there was no one around and pulled her daughter into her bedroom. Point two. Of course I told him. Your father said that it would be for the best if we married you to Machen, but it still depends on Gong Machen's opinion, said Yifan, relaying Qin Zhe's original words. Point two. Depends on Gong Machen's opinion? Didn't you tell father that Qin Sheng and he are not clear about each other? It's not right. If Qin Sheng really seduces Gong Machen and marries her own uncle, the Qin family will be laughed at by the powerful people of this nation. Qin Zixian said anxiously. Point two. Ethan shook her head. I said everything I needed to say. I also reminded your father that we needed to avoid such a scandal. He said that Gong Machen knows his limits. He thinks Machen will make the right decision. 2. Qin Zixian's sharp eyes flashed. Just send Qin Sheng away. Isn't she bad at her studies? Tell her that she can't go to university. Our family gave her tuition fees on account of her surname, Qin, and that will all be in vain, too. Hefun frowned. We need to discuss this with your father. If he doesn't agree, it's useless for us to say anything, too. Why would father not agree? Doesn't he hate Qin Sheng? If Qin Sheng hadn't been born, Big Brother wouldn't have died. Qin Zixian said. Point 2. Hefun's face turned gloomy. This is what I can't be sure on. Your father and Qin Sheng, too. What did my father do to Qin Sheng? Qin Zixian asked. Point 2. Nothing. It doesn't matter. I'll think of a way to talk to the old man about what you said. After all, you graduated from university and are still pure and beautiful. How can you not be better than that little girl? Hefun reminded her daughter. Qin Zhe couldn't get along well with Qin Sheng, but Hefun didn't know for sure what the true state of their relationship was. She had a feeling that Qin Zhe wasn't as resolute as he seemed. Point 2. I know. I'll definitely get Gong Machen. Qin Zixian turned around and walked back to her bedroom. Point 2. Qin Sheng lay in bed, tears clouding her eyes and soaking her cheeks. When she'd fallen asleep, the sky was already bright. Point 2. Qin Sheng, get up. Gong Machin pushed the sleeping girl on the bed. Point 2. Qin Sheng slapped the man's handsome face with all her strength. Get lost, too. The crisp sound of the slap made Qin Yunting jump out of her bed, and she ran to Qin Sheng's doorway. When had her insufferably arrogant uncle ever been hit by someone? 2. Yunting, get out. Gong Machin shouted coldly. Point 2. Qin Yunting ran away obediently. Her uncle was furious, but she desperately wanted to see how her uncle would deal with Qin Sheng. Get up. Gong Machin raised his hand and grabbed Qin Sheng's chin as he roared his words. Point 2. What the H*LL had she done now? What was Gong Machin playing at? She was so angry to be woken up like this. She would hit him as hard as she could. Point 2. Qin Sheng felt pain in her chin. Her arms randomly slapped the man's body, trying to shove him away. Point 2. Nie Feng, drag him out and castrate him. Qin Sheng shouted to the bodyguard. She closed her eyes and made an even bigger fuss. Point 2. Nie Feng, who was standing outside the bedroom door, didn't move. Castrate the CEO? Huh, as if he would do that. He wasn't insane. Point 2. The corners of Qin Yunting's lips curled up uncontrollably. She was hiding in the corridor, listening, trying to guess how Qin Sheng was going to be punished, too. In the room, Gong Machin's face turned cold. The little vixen wanted Nie Feng to castrate him. Who did she think she was, too? He lifted the blanket and took off the girl's pajamas, no matter how much she resisted. He put some clothes on her, hoisted her up, and carried her on his shoulder. Point 2. His big hand patted Qin Sheng's buttocks. Are you awake? 2. Qin Sheng, who had her head down, rubbed her sore buttocks, and finally fully woke up. Point 2. Uncle, you hurt me, too. You made me a promise. Qin Sheng. You said you wouldn't be late for class again. And here you are sleeping in, mocking me with your wicked ways. Gong Machin said. Point 2. At that moment, Qin Sheng remembered what she had promised Gong Machin. She'd made the promise when he had questioned her about her terrible academic results after he'd returned to China. Point 2. I'm awake. I'm awake. I won't dare to be late in the future. I promise 1,000 times, she quickly said. With a man's martial arts, she would be crippled if she carried on fighting him. Point 2. Gong Machin scooped up her school bag and carried the girl out of the room, walking in front of everyone's astonished eyes. Point 2. Qin Yunting glared at Qin Sheng's back. She thought that her cousin would have been scolded to death, but she'd been carried out by the man. Did this count as taking care of her, too? Qin Zixian's lips twitched. Third brother, how old is Qin Sheng? It won't look good if she's carried out by you like this. Put her down and let Nie Feng send her to school. We're going to be late for work, too. Nie Feng, send Yunting to school and the Miss Zixian to the company. I'll be there soon. Gong Machin ordered Nie Feng and strode out of the villa with Qin Sheng. Point 2. Qin Zixian and Qin Yunting felt sorely disappointed as they watched the man leave the mansion. Point 2. Qin Sheng and her school bag were thrown into the back seat of the black Mercedes by Gong Machin. She patted down her messy hair and said, Uncle, I haven't washed up yet, too. She touched her chest, her heart beating. Luckily, Uncle had put on her panties, so she wasn't naked under her uniform. Point 2. Gong Machin got into the front seat of the car and said, There are cosmetics in the thermostat box, too. Qin Sheng opened the thermostat box. There were all kinds of things in it, such as face wipes, mouthwash, and the usual cosmetics and comb she had in her room. Point 2. After Qin Sheng washed up, her stomach started to growl. Uncle, I'm hungry, too. She'd spoken with an irritated tone of voice. She hadn't even eaten breakfast yet. Point 2. It's your fault for not waking up early and not having breakfast. I'll let you starve as a punishment, Gong Machin said. Qin Sheng pouted. Stupid man. If he hadn't ripped her from her bed, her heart wouldn't be palpitating like it was. She wouldn't have insomnia either if he gave her what she wanted. Him, too. She was so angry that she didn't say anything more. It wouldn't kill her to starve, so she didn't bother to pay attention to him. He could suit himself as far as she was concerned. Point 2. The car drove to her school. She didn't say a word to the man. She didn't even pay attention to him when he told her to study hard. She slammed the car door and walked to the school gate. Point 2. A man ran out of another car parked at the school gate. The paper bag in his hand was respectfully handed to Qin Sheng. Miss Qin, the president asked me to buy this for you, too. Qin Sheng looked at the man in surprise. She knew this man. He was one of Gong Machin's subordinates. Point two. It turned out that Machin had secretly ordered someone to buy breakfast for her. She was so happy that she wanted to chat to the man. But the man had hurried away, and his car sped past point two. She watched as Gong Machin's car sped away, the corner of her lips curving up. Maybe she could reward him with a kiss later, too. However, Chu Xia said that men should not be spoiled and reminded her not to get ahead of herself. Qin Shin always got ahead of herself. Point two. Qin Shin wished she could be the only one to kiss his lips. She was greedy for him. A sly look flashed across her eyes. Point two. What delicious food have you got there? I'm starving. Chu Xia snatched the paper bag from Qin Sheng's hand. Point two. Qin Sheng snatched it back. This was bought for me by my uncle. We can share it, but I'm in control, too. Chu Xia grinned. You're always in control. This is a loving breakfast that Gong Machin asked someone to buy for me. It's clearly from his heart. Qin Sheng opened the bag and took out the steaming meat, rice balls, and soy milk. Point two. Chu Xia swallowed hard and looked like she was ready to devour every little bit of the food. This rice ball is very good. It's fragrant and delicious, soft and yummy. It would be great if it was accompanied by some salted meat, too. It's easy to get greasy after eating too much, and my weight might increase. Considering my weight loss plan, I'm willing to share the food with you, said Qin Sheng. Point two. Qin Sheng was jealous of Chu Xia's amazing body and how she never seemed to put on weight. She really wanted to lose more weight herself. For Gong Machin, she wanted to become a slim, runway model. Point two. She opened the paper bag and took out a rice ball to throw into Chu Xia's mouth. I just scored a goal. I have amazing skills, too. Chu Xia wolfed down her food. I'm starving. I'll eat it all. Oh, and don't forget to pay me back my money, too. Got it. This is for you. It's worth 500 yuan. We'll split it 50-50. Qin Sheng took out the money she'd taken from Liang's wallet. She wanted to keep 250 yuan, but then she felt that 250 yuan was a bit too much. Even 200 yuan felt too much. In the end, she took 100 yuan as a memento of her first job and gave the rest to Chu Xia. Point two. Chu Xia was pleasantly surprised. That duke gave you so much? Wow, too. The corners of Qin Sheng's lips curved into a sly smile. She wondered if the duke was crying now. Huh. She was having a last laugh. Point two. The duke had bullied her, violently assaulted her, and she had let him off easily by just stealing one of his wallets. He probably had a ton of them anyway, too. But why did a shiver prickle her spine when she thought of the duke? It was as if someone was staring at her, too. The two of them walked as they finished their breakfast. They walked into the classroom as the bell rang out through the school. Point two. Everyone's homework was received by the class representative, Qin Yunting, and she placed it on the teacher's desk. Point two. The first class was boring. Qin Sheng had a good understanding of ancient poetry. She could recite what she was learning now in primary school. She on. Point two. Her uncle had even praised her for having a noble charm like her mother, so she had always enjoyed poetry, but this lesson was a bit too bland for her. Point two. Her gaze landed on the homework book on the desk, and she was upset that the teacher hadn't read it yet. Point two. Finally, the teacher finished the lesson and let everyone practice after class. He also had time to judge the students' homework. Point two. He opened Qin Yunting's homework book and was so angry that his face turned black. Qin Sheng grinned evilly. Her plan was coming to fruition. Her sabotaging of Yunting's homework. Ha too. Qin Yunting, this is your homework. The exercise book was thrown onto the desk, open on the offending page. Point two. A couple of guys up front read it out loud, too. Dead vines, old trees, the evil cawing of the crows, too. Who are you? Who am I? It's time to fly, too. Wall to wall, booty call, too. Oh no, oh my God, I'm a dog, too. You're ugly, you've gone cross-eyed, and I'm blind, too. Ha. Qin Sheng couldn't hold back her laughter. Point two. All the students burst into laughter, too. Qin Yunting blushed and wanted to be swallowed up by the ground. She just wanted to rush over to tear Qin Sheng to pieces. She knew Qin Sheng had written that in her book. The B*TCH too. Qin Yunting, I usually see you as a prim and proper lady. I didn't expect your mind to be filled with such things. How dare you write such things for me to read? Booty call? What is that supposed to mean, too? I can't stand the attitude you have shown towards your teacher, Chin Yunting. I'm going to tell your parents about this. I want to report this matter to the principal, too, and deal with it seriously, said the old scholar teacher, Zheng, righteously point two. But teacher Zheng, this homework was written by Qin Sheng too. Qin Yunting, it's useless blaming me. Although we both have the surname Qin, this notebook isn't mine either. Teacher has just finished marking my notebook. Maybe your brain has gone crazy and you forgot about writing it. Qin Sheng didn't wait for Qin Yunting to speak, then stopped herself from speaking point two. In order to ensure that she got a good education, Gong Machin sent her to the top aristocratic school in the nation. However, he didn't reveal her identity. He wanted the teachers to strictly discipline her to make sure she got the best grades point two. Therefore, no one in the school knew that she was Qin Yunting's cousin. What the F***ck? Qin Yunting wanted to bang her head against the wall. She really couldn't say that she had helped Qin Sheng with her homework. Could she too? Teacher Zheng, I did not write this homework. Someone replaced my notebook to frame me. Qin Sheng, you must have touched this notebook since your handwriting, said Qin Yunting point two. Her gaze landed on Qin Sheng. F***ck. Anyway, it was Qin Sheng who wrote it. It must have been. It made sense that Qin Sheng had replaced her notebook yesterday when she'd locked her in the study. Maybe this was her payback, too. I replaced your notebook? No, I did not. Qin Yunting, don't frame me. If you don't believe me, let everyone see if the handwriting is yours. Oi Husky, the class monitor, don't tell me you can't even recognize your partner's handwriting. Qin Sheng called out to the class monitor, Ha, Siki point two. Who are you calling a dog? You're the husky. No, actually, you're just a dachshund with a fat body and short legs. Hasiki roared in anger, calling him a husky every day. He didn't look like a F***king dog, too. Qin Sheng glared at Husky. She had a slender body and long legs. She didn't look anything like a dachshund. She would be a poodle point two. She was nothing like him. He was a dog-eared beast, too. Teacher Zheng slammed the table. What nonsense are you all spouting? Hasiki, get a few classmates to come over and check the notebook, too. Hasiki walked over and picked up the notebook. He was dumbfounded by the words on it. This was clearly Qin Yunting's notebook point two. He passed the notebook to a few trusted classmates to look at it. Everyone was stunned. It was definitely her handwriting, too. Well, is it Qin Yunting's handwriting? Teacher Zheng asked point two. The room was dead silent. No one dared to say anything. Qin Yunting was the eldest daughter of the Qin family and also the girlfriend of the class monitor, Hasiki. One of them was the school beauty and the other was the school hunk. Who dared to offend them? Two. Qin Yunting walked over and took the notebook from Hasiki's hand. She looked at the handwriting in astonishment. Even she herself thought that she had written it. How was this possible, too? Qin Sheng looked at Qin Yunting proudly. Since she was young, she and Qin Yunting had worked on their homework together. She had long practiced Qin Yunting's handwriting. However, she only imitated 70 to 80% of it normally. She deliberately let people see the difference. However, this time, she'd used 100% of her skills. No one could even tell point two. Teacher Zheng knocked on the table again. Are you all speechless? Since it's Qin Yunting's handwriting, I'll report it to the principal right now. I don't know how shameless you are to write such a dirty poem on your homework. You must deal with it seriously and report it to the whole school for criticism. 2. The teacher took the homework out of the classroom and went straight to the principal's office. When teacher Zheng walked out of the classroom, Qin Yunting rushed at Qin Sheng like a madwoman. She had been a good student all her life and had never been so humiliated before, too. Qin Sheng, how dare you do this to me? Yunting reached out to grab Qin Sheng's collar point, too. Qin Sheng dodged back and gave Yunting a glancing side kick. The sole of her shoe landed on Qin Yunting's face point, too. Get away from me. B***TCH, too. Qin Yunting had learned ballet and taekwondo. She had learned taekwondo for so many years, so she couldn't let it go to waste, too. Qin Sheng, how dare you kick my girl? I'm going to tell the principal, shouted Hasiki, hugging Qin Yunting and glaring at Sheng Point 2. Oh, you scare me to death. Qin Sheng pretended to be scared Point 2. Husky, don't be unreasonable. It was your girlfriend who made the first move. We all saw it. Don't forget that there are surveillance cameras in the classroom. If you want to go to the principal, go ahead. Chu Xia stepped forward Point 2. That was the good thing about aristocratic schools. In order to settle the minds of the parents of the rich young kids, there were cameras installed in the classrooms. Point 2. Qin Sheng put her hands on her hips. Are you going to tell the principal then? If you really want to, go to the principal. I dare you to. Qin Yunting grasped Hasiki. She really didn't dare to go to the principal. Not when there were cameras in the classroom. Point 2. Hasiki glared at Qin Sheng. He hated her sharp tongue. He hugged Qin Yunting and went to the infirmary with her to get the red marks on her face. Looked at Point 2. Wow, good going, Sheng. A group of students who didn't like Qin Yunting and Hasiki celebrated with Qin Sheng, cheering her up. Point 2. Qin Sheng made a figure-8 gesture. She won this round completely. As the bell rang to signify the end of class, the students were free to leave. Point 2. Qin Sheng lost her previous vigor and lay on the table gloomily, her hands over her head. Point 2. What's wrong? You're not happy after beating Qin Yunting? Chu Xia asked. Point 2. Ignore me. I want to be alone. Qin Sheng pushed Chu Xia's hand away. Point 2. Are you still in love? Does your uncle know yet? Chu Xia sat in the seat in front of Qin Sheng. Point 2. Qin Sheng looked up at Chu Xia and lowered her voice. How much does it hurt the first time? Will it hurt, and will I bleed to death, too? F***CK. What's making you think about this? Have you ever seen a girl sleeping with a man? She enjoys it. It looks fun, Chu Xia said. Point 2. Qin Sheng's eyes narrowed. That makes sense. I've never seen anyone have S**x before. 2. So, you haven't slept with your uncle yet? Asked Chu Xia. Point 2. His size is scary. I am just afraid of pain, said Qin Sheng helplessly. A monster-like thing flashed through her mind. Then Point 2. Chu Xia scouted her surroundings vigilantly and quickly pulled out her phone. Point 2. Haven't you heard that the bigger the man, the more women enjoy themselves? I'll send you a few films so you can learn from them, Chu Xia said wisely. Point 2. Qin Sheng clicked on the film, and her face instantly turned red. The seductive woman was sitting on the man's body and was moving with all her might. At least her phone was on silent mode. You can learn how to do this. Qin Sheng quickly turned off her phone. Point 2. Just how old are you? You're 18 years old, that's what. Most people your age have done it by now. Your aunt has already given birth to a baby with your uncle, but you haven't even done it yet. Chu Xia looked at Qin Sheng with disdain. Point 2. TSK. I might try it tonight. Qin Sheng made up her mind. Point 2. Students, please pay attention. A Duke of European nobility has come to our school to donate to the museum. Please come to the playground and line up in your classes to welcome him. 2. Their conversation was cut short when the school's loudspeaker sent out a notice. The students ran out of the classroom one after another. Point 2. Qin Sheng rolled her eyes. Why did another duke need to come in her life? She had been allergic to dukes recently. Point 2. She and Chu Xia went to the playground and stood in line. A luxury red convertible drove into the school. One of the people in the car was purple-eyed with brown-red hair, like a demonic monster, and the other was a delicate, pretty Korean boy who looked like a little beauty. Point 2. The principal ran over and personally opened the car door to welcome his distinguished guest. His attitude was as hospitable as if he was greeting his own financier. Point 2. Welcome, Duke Leon, Mr. Seacombe. The principal waved his hand, and all the students in the school gave a warm applause. Point 2. All the girls screamed uncontrollably. They had never seen such a good-looking man before. They were just short of rushing up and mobbing the two men. Point 2. Qin Sheng's lips twitched nervously. F***CK. Oh my G***D. The Duke. The Duke. This wasn't good at all. SH**T. Oh Lord, please, give me an escape, she thought, hands clasped together in prayer. Point 2. Liang's eyes skimmed around all the students on the field. Now where was that little minx? It was time to settle their accounts. Time to settle the score, too. Wherever Liang's gaze landed, the little girl screamed. with his devilish face and Conan-like aura. Where he went, people would fall down before him. He had conquered the hearts of all the girls without much effort at all. Point two. His gaze swept over the hubbub and then landed on the principal. Hello, Principal, too. Duke Ong, Master Jew, please come to the meeting room. The principal made a gesture of invitation. Point two. Liang and Sikong Ju followed the principal and a few teachers into the teaching building. Point two. The girls immediately swarmed into the teaching building after them. Just wanted to take another look at that devilish fellow. Point two. How can there be such a good-looking man in this world? I would do anything to sleep with him. Qin Yunting, your family is also a noble. Do you know him? A girl asked Qin Yunting, who was beside her. Point two. Qin Yunting's lips twitched. What do you mean? My family is a noble of this country, and he is a noble of Europe. But I do know that out of the titles, Duke, Marquis, Uncle, Son, Male, Bear, Knight, the Duke title is the highest, too. Her gaze was also fixed on the Duke's disappearing back. No matter what kind of guests came to the school, Qin Yunting was always the student representative responsible for receiving them. However, today, Teacher Zheng had complained to the principal about her. The principal had called her to the office to scold her, saying that if her surname was not Qin, she would have been discredited on her record. However, thanks to her grandfather's reputation, that hadn't happened. Being a Qin had its benefits. Point two. And this time, it was Hasiki and Yin Fei who received the guests as the student representatives. She watched as Yin Fei walked into the meeting room with Hasiki. She was so angry that she clenched her fists. That should have been her, too. Wherever Liang's gaze landed, the little girl screamed. With his devilish face and Conan-like aura, where he went, people would fall down before him. He had conquered the hearts of all the girls without much effort at all. Point two. His gaze swept over the hubbub and then landed on the principal. Hello, Principal, too. Duke Ong, Master Jew, please come to the meeting room. The principal made a gesture of invitation. Point two. Liang and Sikong Ju followed the principal and a few teachers into the teaching building. Point two. The girls immediately swarmed into the teaching building after them. Just wanted to take another look at that devilish fellow. Point two. How can there be such a good-looking man in this world? I would do anything to sleep with him. Qin Yunting, your family is also a noble. Do you know him? A girl asked Qin Yunting, who was beside her. Point two. Qin Yunting's lips twitched. What do you mean? My family is a noble of this country, and he is a noble of Europe. But I do know that out of the titles, Duke, Marquis, Uncle, Son, Male, Bear, Knight, the Duke title is the highest, too. Her gaze was also fixed on the Duke's disappearing back. No matter what kind of guests came to the school, Qin Yunting was always the student representative responsible for receiving them. However, today, Teacher Zheng had complained to the principal about her. The principal had called her to the office to scold her, saying that if her surname was not Qin, she would have been discredited on her record. However, thanks to her grandfather's reputation, that hadn't happened. Being a Qin had its benefits. Point two. And this time, it was Hasiki and Yin Fei who received the guests as the student representatives. She watched as Yin Fei walked into the meeting room with Hasiki. She was so angry that she clenched her fists. That should have been her, too. Yin Fei had been competing with her for Hasiki's love and to be the most popular girl in school. Thanks to this, Yin Fei's popularity would definitely surpass hers, too. Qin Sheng. When she thought of these two words, she was so angry that her chest hurt. She would certainly deal with Qin Sheng soon. Mark her words. Point two. In the meeting room, the principal asked the two student representatives to introduce the school's history and situation. Point two. Liang raised his hand. I heard that the miss of the Qin family is studying in your school, too. The principal was smarter than a scientist and immediately understood Liang's words. Yes. Teacher Zheng, quickly call Qin Yunting from your class and ask her to come and receive Duke Liang, too. Qin Yunting is an outstanding student in our school. She has excellent character and was originally asked to receive you. However, I just heard that she went to the infirmary, so I asked other students to replace her, too. The principal had forgotten the status of the Qin family. It was likely that the Qin family and the great nobles of this world knew each other. Otherwise, they would not have asked for her by name. 2. D asterisk MN. And he had just reprimanded Qin Yunting. His heart was clamped, a cold sweat peppering his back point too. Liang raised his eyebrows. The image of that wretched girl who he'd wanted to F asterisk CK him, who had ripped him off, appeared in his mind. She had excellent grades? Interesting too. Teacher Zheng hurriedly ran out of the meeting room. Where's Qin Yunting? I said Qin Yunting too. Qin Yunting was surprised. Could it be that Teacher Zheng was not done after the principal reprimanded her? Was there more punishment to come? 2. Before she could figure out, Teacher Zheng had already found her point 2. Why are you still standing here? Duke Liang asked to see you by name. Quickly, come to the meeting room, said Teacher Zheng anxiously point 2. Qin Yunting was stunned. The Duke asked to see her by name? Wow, maybe today wasn't going so bad after all point 2. When she heard the soft sound around her, she raised her proud chin. I was just informed my parents would be told of my insolence. It's not appropriate for me to entertain guests at this time, right? It was a rare opportunity, and she wanted to settle the matter point 2. Teacher Zheng's face twitched. As long as you receive the guests well, your parents won't be told too. Qin Yunting tidied up her school uniform and added white and red ribbons to her hair, then followed Teacher Zheng into the meeting room point 2. Student Qin Yunting, come over and greet Duke Liang and Master Zhu. The principal waved at Qin Yunting point 2. Hello, Duke Liang Zhu. Hello, Master Sikong Zhu. Qin Yunting gave a standard 90-degree bow, and every move she made reflected the demeanor of a lady from a wealthy family. She could have passed for royalty, in her opinion. What grace she displayed, too, when she walked past Yin Fei and did not forget to look at her with disdain. She better not think she could snatch her man, too. Yin Fei's face was pinched and pale, and she tried hard to maintain the fake prosperity on her face point, too. Liang frowned. The principal must have made a mistake, right? I'm looking for the young lady of the Qin family, too. That's right. Qin Yunting is the young lady of the Qin family. The principal replied point 2. Could it be that there's a mix-up of the information? Perhaps there's another girl by that name? Isn't there another girl studying here? Sikong Zhu looked at Liang too. Liang glared back at Sikong Zhu. If his people made a mistake, he would punish them dearly. He gritted his teeth to funnel his anger away too. Do you still have a surname of Qin here? He asked the principal. I'll just check the roster. The principal wiped the cold sweat off his bald head point 2. Teacher Zheng walked forward. There's a girl with the surname of Qin in our class. I wonder if this is who Duke Liang is looking for? But I've never heard her say that she's a young lady of the Qin family. 2. Does she have short hair, a cute face, and is 165 centimeters tall? Sikong Zhu asked point 2. Teacher Zheng was instantly dumbfounded. How would he know if a student had a cute face? That would be highly inappropriate of him to think that. But then the Duke did look serious point 2. Yes, she has short hair. Her name is Qin Sheng. Teacher Zheng stammered point 2. Liang glanced at Sikong Zhu. The shameless Sikong Zhu must have scanned the girl carefully to have known her height. 2. Call her over. The others can leave now. Duke Liang ordered point 2. Teacher Zheng chased Qin Yunting, Hasiki, and Yin Fei out of the meeting room point 2. I thought you were the young miss of the Qin family. So it seems that you are nothing. Qin Sheng is the young miss of the Qin family. The most important one. Yin Fei sneered. She wanted to return Qin Yunting's disdain, too. Qin Yunting was furious. I am the young miss of the Qin family. Who do you think you are, too? Well, Qin Sheng is someone important now. Someone requested by Duke Liang. Yin Fei smiled and walked past Qin Yunting, flipping her hair, tauntingly point 2. USL *T. Qin Yunting slapped Yin Fei. Hard point 2. Hasiki grabbed Qin Yunting's hand. Stop fooling around. Is it worth it for such a small matter, too? Hasiki, aren't you going to let me hit her some more? She shamed me. Qin Yunting looked at Hasiki in surprise point 2. Stop fooling around. Hurry up and find Qin Sheng. She's not in the class. Hasiki, you're the class monitor, so bring some people to look for her. Teacher Zheng looked around, but didn't see Qin Sheng point 2. Qin Yunting's eyes flashed. Yin Fei was detestable, but Qin Sheng was even more detestable than her point 2. She whispered a few words into Hasiki's ear and ran back to the classroom to get her school bag for class. Then, she ran to the school's avenue, where trees lined the pavements. Point 2. Others did not know where Qin Sheng was hiding, but as she and Qin Sheng had fought since they were young, she knew where Qin Sheng was hiding. Point 2. Hasiki followed Qin Yunting to the avenue. She looked up to find trees, the sunlight falling through the segmented branches, and finally stopped under a big tree. Point 2. She gave Hasiki a look. Hasiki took out a snake and put it on the tree, and it started climbing up the tree. Point 2. Sitting on the tree branch, Qin Sheng leaned against the tree trunk and enjoyed the pleasant breeze. But what was rustling in her ears, too? She opened her eyes and turned her head. Oh my God! She watched as a snake with a red tongue came towards her, too. Aya! Her body tilted, and she fell onto the grass beneath the tree. She was most afraid of things like snakes and lizards. Point 2. It hurt, damn it hurt. The wind had been knocked out of Qin Sheng. She'd fallen to the ground on her back. She felt like she was going to fall apart. It hurt so much, and she couldn't move. When she opened her eyes, she saw Qin Yunting sprinkling something sticky on her body, too. Qin Yunting, what did you spill on me? Qin Sheng immediately got up from the grass and realized that she was covered in glue. Point 2. Io, Qin Sheng, how old are you? Why are you still playing with glue all over yourself? Qin Yunting said. What did you do to Qin Sheng? You spilled it on her. I saw you, Yunting. Chu Xiao ran over. Point 2. All the students in the class were called out by Teacher Zheng to look for her, and she happened to see them searching for her. Point 2. Qin Yunting threw the glue jar at Chu Xiao next, and Chu Xiao was instantly covered in a sticky white goo. Chu Xiao swiftly threw the jar into the pond. Point 2. Did I spill it really? Did anyone see it? Do you have any proof? Hasiki, did you see me do it too? No, I just saw Chu Xia and Qin Sheng playing with the glue. Hasiki said. Point 2. *T. Husky, you're AF *King dog like Qin Yunting. Isn't it great to lick a woman's rear end? We know you lick her out night and day. Chu Xia shouted rudely. Point 2. Hasiki's face turned bright red. Who said I licked her too? You clearly have good oral skills, licking her, but you served Qin Yunting well. Chu Xia said loudly. Point 2. That's not true. Well, have I ever said such shameless things? Qin Yunting was so angry that her small face turned red. Point 2. We both heard of it. If you don't believe me, you can ask your old best friend, Yin Fei. Qin Sheng said. Point 2. Yin Fei and Qin Yunting were originally best friends. However, they broke up because they were fighting over Hasiki. If they asked Yin Fei about this, Yin Fei would be guaranteed to say something more overboard than the. Point 2. Hasiki, don't believe them. I've never said anything about us. Qin Yunting grabbed the boy and hurriedly explained. Point 2. Hasiki's face was green now. Qin Yunting's words inadvertently admitted that she had told Yin Fei. He hadn't told anyone what happened between them, so she must have told people. Point 2. It was as embarrassing as it could be. He waved Qin Yunting's hand away and strode back to the teaching building. Qin Yunting chased after him and kept explaining, but Qin Sheng and Chu Xia could no longer hear what they were saying as they walked further away. Point 2. Chu Xia looked at Qin Sheng. All this glue, how can we carry on in school like this? It won't wash off, too. Qin Sheng frowned. Qin Yunting must have spilled the glue all over her to embarrass her in front of the Duke. Qin Yunting would definitely tell Teacher Zheng that she was here. Point 2. We can wash it off. Qin Yunting always has to cause trouble for me. Anyway, help me pick some flowers, too. Okay, right away. Chu Xia said as she picked a bunch of flowers from the flower pond. Point 2. Qin Sheng stuck the pink flowers on the glue and scattered the petals on her dress. The strong glue was indeed good quality. The effect of the glue was definitely awesome. Qin Sheng, quickly go to the meeting room. Teacher Zheng ran over, pulled Qin Sheng, and ran. Point 2. At that moment, there were still many students swarming outside the meeting room. Everyone looked curiously at Qin Sheng, who was caught by the teacher. They never thought that she was also a miss of the Qin family. Point 2. Qin Yunting, who had wanted to see Qin Sheng make a fool of herself, was surprised to see Qin Sheng dressed in flower petals. She widened her eyes in shock. Her school uniform was pasted with fresh flowers, making it look like fashionable three-dimensional embroidery. Point 2. Hurry up and go in. Teacher Zheng pushed Qin Sheng into the meeting room. Point 2. Liang looked up and saw the girl who walked in. She was wearing a white school uniform dress, a red ribbon belt, a set of flower petals, and a pair of white stockings on her slender legs. Her clear eyes were sparkling, like a flower fairy who had just walked out from the enchanted bush. Point 2. Sikongju's mouth was slightly open. Hey, this girl changed her clothes. She looked so pure, too. His eyes scanned the girl up and down. Point 2. Liang glared at Sikongju and warned him not to look where he shouldn't. Point 2. He hooked his finger at Qin Sheng. Come here. What's your name? 2. He looked like he was calling a puppy, too. What are you standing there for? The Duke asked for your name. The Duke wants to donate to our new library and laboratory. He wants to visit them, see what he can do to help. Please answer him. The principal looked at Qin Sheng with a warning look, signaling her to be obedient. Point 2. Qin Sheng walked over and curled her lips. My name is Qin Sheng. I don't know anything about the library of our school, so why don't you find someone else to introduce it to you? 2. She turned around and left after saying that. They'd wanted her to come, and she had. Mission accomplished. Point 2. Stop. I didn't dismiss you. Liang's eyes narrowed. He didn't know where she got the courage to be arrogant in front of him. Point 2. Qin Sheng stopped. You asked me to talk about the old library and show you around. But I don't know about it, therefore I can't do that. So what exactly am I doing here, 2? You might not know anything about it, but I still want you to show me it. Liang's voice was lazy. Point 2. Sikongju laughed. Girl, the Duke wants you to show him the library. He wants you to do it. Come here quickly, 2. Qin Sheng's face froze. Do it? Why would he want her to do it exactly? Why her too? The corner of her lips twitched. Don't tell me the Duke wants to buy tools again. If you and Sikongju need any more tools, just tell me. I'll get my old boss to send them to you right away, 2. The principal was sweating when he heard that. He looked at the Duke and Sikongju in surprise. Sikongju's identity was very mysterious. He had always mingled in the upper-class society, but no one knew what he really did, where he was really from. Point 2. Only now was it obvious that Sikongju must have been a social butterfly, someone who mingled with people for a profession, a sort of socialite. Point 2. Liang's lips twitched. It seemed that if he did not do anything to this girl, she would be sure that he and Sikongju were a couple, and he didn't want that. Point 2. Take us to the old library and then the laboratory. I'll need to see how big the donation needs to be, 2. Yes. Qin Sheng, take the Duke there now. The principal ordered. Point 2. Qin Sheng followed the Duke helplessly. In fact, she did not need to take him. There was a teacher leading the way, so she followed him like a lost sheep. Point 2. Students were watching on both sides of the corridor. The girl's envious and jealous eyes were all fixed on Qin Sheng. Point 2. Liang frowned. Are we animals? Why are there so many people watching? 2. I'll clear the area immediately. Teacher Zheng, you and the other teachers tell the students to go back to the classrooms. Don't come out unless there's something wrong. The principal ordered. Point 2. Finally, they reached the laboratory building. Liang instructed, let Qin Sheng accompany me in alone. I like to talk to her, too. It was not a request, but an order. He put one hand in his pocket and walked into the laboratory building on his long legs. Point 2. Qin Sheng followed Liang to the laboratory under the principal's worried gaze. It seemed like she had no choice. She gulped. Point 2. What is there to see in the laboratory? I don't understand why you need to see it. If you're willing to donate, then donate. If you're not willing to donate, then get lost. Qin Sheng said angrily. This man was simply too annoying, forcing her to follow him. Point 2. Liang pushed open the door of the laboratory. Point 2. The Duke's purple eyes twisted on the girl. If I don't look, how will I know if the donation will be big enough? How will I know if it will be right? He approached her step by step, and Qin Sheng retreated backwards, her heart pounding. Point 2. I'm warning you, don't do anything reckless. This is a school. I can call people here, she said sternly. Point 2. Call people? If I remember correctly, this is the second floor. Those people are waiting outside the building now. Are you sure they can hear you? Liang's eyes flashed with evil. Point 2. Liang hit something against Qin Sheng's thigh. She leaned back and subconsciously reached out to grab the man's arm to stabilize herself. The man jabbed her on the shoulder and pushed her onto the first aid table. Point 2. This was the laboratory for the first aid course, and she was lying on the first aid table. Oh no! 2. The Duke pressed himself against Qin Sheng's body too. The Duke's flirtatious face was so close to Qin Sheng now. She could even see that there wasn't a single bristle or hair on his smooth face. Point 2. He looked very feminine, like a lot of men did these days. He looked more like a woman than an actual woman did. Point 2. But that wasn't the point. He was right on top of her. Point 2. Damn it, be **starred. Let go of me too. Liang propped one of his arms on the first aid platform, and the other hand pinched the girl's chin. His long, narrow eyes flashed with a cold aura. Where's my wallet? Hand it over, he bellowed. Point 2. Wallet? What wallet? Qin Sheng said, pretending to be stupid. Point 2. This was clearly all about the wallet. He was evidently desperate to get it back. Point 2. Pretending to be stupid? If you don't give me back the wallet, I'll punish you. Liang threatened. Point 2. Qin Sheng's lips twitched. She would never give him back the wallet. Not after all he had done to her. She had always been stubborn. Point 2. But go ahead. Call for help. I promise they won't hear you. Hissed Liang too. **CK. If she could beat him, she would have been able to escape long ago. Why wasn't she stronger too? Maybe she should beg for mercy. But then she really didn't want to give him the wallet too. Several plans flashed through her mind. A sly fox-like glint flashed in her eyes then. She had a plan. Point 2. She hooked her arm around the man's neck and licked the corner of her lips as though she had seen something delicious. Duke Liang, you're so beautiful, too. Liang looked at the girl in astonishment. She licked the corner of her lips as though she was looking at food. He felt annoyed just looking at her. It was as if he had become her prey, too. Get lost. He roared angrily and pushed the girl away. Point 2. Duke Liang, don't go. Qin Sheng shouted after the rampaging man. Point 2. She narrowed her eyes and shot a devious look at the man's back. Point 2. Damn you, little vixen. I'm going to punish you. Mark my words, too. The principal saw Liang coming out and quickly went up to him. Duke, the school has prepared a lunch banquet. I'm sorry for not paying my respects, too. The principal could clearly feel the oppressive air radiating off the Duke. He was afraid that if the reception didn't go well, then the Duke would not donate. Point 2. Lead the way. Liang ordered. Point 2. This way, this way. The principal quickly led the way. Point 2. Sikong-ju was confused by Liang's gloomy face and Qin Sheng's smirking behind him. What's wrong? Did you get beaten by that stray vixen again, too? Liang's face twitched. Get lost. You shamelessly insisted on coming with me today. Maybe you can beat that stray vixen, too. It was an insult. The Duke would never admit that he was bullied by a little girl. Point 2. Tisp, why are women so devious? Do I need to do this myself then? Sikong-ju whispered under his breath. Point 2. If Sikong-ju had known that there was no chance of this going to plan, he wouldn't have come to join in the fun. He was just curious and wanted to see how Liang would punish the mischievous vixen who had bit him. Point 2. They came to the dining hall in the school cafeteria, where there was a table full of food set up. Point 2. Liang naturally sat on the main seat, while Sikong-ju sat beside him. Qin Sheng dawdled until the end before she came in. She wanted to sit at the furthest place from the Duke, but was grabbed by the principal and shoved beside Liang too. Thank you for your donation, Duke. I'll clean myself up first, and then we can begin. The principal picked up a wine glass and poured himself some wine. Point 2. Liang said lazily, I do intend to donate. As for whether or not I do and how much I give, all depends on Miss Qin, too. Qin Sheng quickly toasted to the Duke. The principal stuffed a glass of wine into Qin Sheng's hand. Point 2. I don't usually drink, Qin Sheng said. Point 2. Then there's nothing I can do. I wanted Miss Qin to drink a glass of red wine, and then I'd donate 10 million, too. Qin Sheng, did you hear that? Our school's library and laboratory are all depending on you. Please drink a glass. The principal lowered his voice and whispered into Qin Sheng's ear. Point 2. Qin Sheng looked at the glass of wine angrily. Truly, no one cared about money that much. Then again, the principal of an aristocratic school was probably desperate to get his hands on free cash. Point 2. If I don't like to drink, then I don't like to drink, she replied, softly. Point 2. The principal whispered to the teacher beside him, go and call Chu Xia over. We can use her to get what we want, too. Qin Sheng looked at the principal in confusion. Why was he calling Chu Xia? What was he playing at, too? The principal said in a voice that could only be heard by two people, you know that in our aristocratic school, some students are real aristocrats, and some students are poor. Those families only hope to send their children in so that they can make some aristocratic friends and get close to the aristocrats. Point 2. Chu Xia's father's small company is about to go bankrupt, and he hasn't paid for the tuition fees for this semester. It's at least a few $100,000. If you, Qin Sheng, can secure the Duke's donation, I'll waive Chu Xia's tuition fees. How about that, too? Ever since Qin Sheng was brought into the dining hall, the principal had gotten one of the teachers to investigate Qin Sheng in detail. He hadn't expected this girl would be personally picked by Duke Liang and be so arrogant in front of. Point 2. The results of the investigation showed that Chu Xia and Qin Sheng were best friends, and he could use this to blackmail Qin Sheng. Point 2. Seeing Chu Xia being brought to the Duke and Sikongju's side, Qin Sheng pursed her lips. Chu Xia had a strong sense of self-esteem. Even if she was poor, she would not ask for money. In fact, she also knew about the tuition fees. She had asked her uncle to help Chu Xia pay for her fees. However, Chu Xia had refused. Point 2. Qin Sheng looked at the red wine in her hand. Fortunately, it was only red wine. If she drank 10 glasses, she should not get drunk, right? She raised her hand and gulped down the glass of wine. Her small face immediately flushed. Point 2. Liang's lips curled into a devilish smile. He snapped his fingers and asked the bodyguard behind him to pour more wine for Qin Sheng. Point 2. F***CK. Qin Sheng wanted to curse so badly. Did she have to drink another full glass of red wine, too? She glared fiercely at the evildoer. She wanted to tear the evil smile off his face. Point 2. But for Chu Xia, she would risk it all, too. She didn't realize that drinking too much red wine would lead to intoxication. How many glasses had she drunk now, too? Qin Sheng, you can't drink anymore. I'll help you drink it. Chu Xia, who had rushed over, saw that Qin Sheng's face was frighteningly flushed and immediately wanted to take the wine glass away. Point 2. Sikongju pulled Chu Xia down. Sit down obediently. If you want to drink, you can drink with me. Come, girl, cheers, too. Chu Xia pushed Sikongju, who had seized the opportunity to hug her, away, then looked nervously at Qin Sheng, who continued to drink. Point 2. This time, there was no need for someone to pour Qin Sheng a new glass. She poured the wine herself and pointed at Liang, too. Why should only I drink and not you? It's not fair, you drink it too. Qin Sheng rushed to the man with the wine glass. However, she was drunk, and the wine spilled onto the man's pale pink shirt. Point 2. What a waste, Qin Sheng said in annoyance. Point 2. Liang pulled Qin Sheng up in exasperation. You dirted my shirt. You're treading a fine line, girl, too. Give me a sweet. Liang ordered the principal. Point 2. Of course, there's a teacher's apartment building at the back. There's an empty room. The principal ordered one of the teachers to quickly sort the room. Point 2. Qin Sheng. You can't take Qin Sheng away. Chu Xia got up to chase Qin Sheng, but was glared at by the principal. Point 2. She volunteered. Why are you making such a fuss? Stay here obediently, the principal said and rushed away. Point 2. Sikongju held onto Chu Xia's hand and refused to let go. Why are you chasing the Duke? The Duke doesn't have time for you now. I'll stay with you. Come, let's drink, too. As Sikongju spoke, he got Chu Xia a glass of wine. Point 2. Damn it, I want to drink with you. Qin Sheng is in danger. I'm going to save Qin Sheng. Chu Xia was like a maniac. She wasn't someone who valued relationships over friends. Point 2. You want to leave? Sure, Toy can leave, but drink all this wine first. Sikongju's eyes lit up. He didn't think a little girl would still be able to walk after drinking all this wine. Point 2. It wasn't easy for Liang to get a chance to take revenge on the little vixen. He wanted to help his boss, so he'd keep this woman occupied. Point 2. Chu Xia looked at the wine glass on the table and stood up. She picked up the wine glass and drank all the wine in one gulp. I'm done. I'm leaving, too. Wait a minute. I want you to drink all the wine in the bottle first. And I haven't drunk yet. How's about if you can beat me? I'll let you go, said Sikong Ju. Point 2. Chu Xia glared at the man in front of her. He looked like a fairy princess, and she did not expect him to be so evil. Point 2. Drink then. I'll show you how powerful I am. Chu Xia stopped pouring the wine and handed the bottle to Sikong Ju. She was so angry that she wanted to knock the thin, pretty boy out. Point 2. Sikong Ju had never been yelled at like this before, and to top it off, she was just a little girl. Point 2. His expression turned sour immediately. F***CK. You really don't know the immensity of the punishment I could inflict on you. 2. Liang carried Qin Sheng into the bathroom in the suite. The drunk girl was like an intoxicated panda, tottering around, unable to stand straight. Point 2. Qin Sheng's throat tightened, and her stomach churned. She opened her mouth and vomited up the contents of her gut. Point 2. The smell of alcohol, along with the sick from Qin Sheng's stomach, sprayed onto Li Ang's chest. Point 2. He could feel the moist and hot liquid dribbling down his body. His face twitched angrily. He was so disgusted that he almost vomited. 2.2. Li Ang's big hand loosened, and he threw the dirty girl into the bathtub. Point 2. Oh God, he had never been covered sick before. 2. Help! Help! Liang shouted. Point 2. The principal ran in. Duke Liang, what are your orders? 2. Find someone to wash her clean, preferably a woman. Liang's already pale face turned even paler from anger. Point 2. Yes. The principal immediately asked his secretary to come over to give Qin Sheng a bath. Point 2. There was also a bathroom in the other bedroom in Liang's suite. He almost rubbed off his skin and used half a bottle of shower gel to remove the unpleasant smell of alcohol and sick. He put on a white bathrobe and returned to Qin Sheng's bedroom. The girl had already been washed clean and was lying on the bed. Point 2. She looked to be in an uncomfortable position, her body bent at an odd angle, but still, she breathed gently, wrapped in the bedding. Point 2. Li Ang's eyes darkened, and the corners of his lips curled into a playful smile. Tell me, where's my wallet? Tell me quickly, he asked in a deep voice. Point 2. Qin Sheng, who had been sound asleep, was provoked by the man's voice. She raised her hand and slapped the man's face. Point 2. Get lost. She was always angry when she woke up. When Gong Machin asked her to wake up, she would slap him. So this man was treated no differently. Point 2. Liang was completely unprepared for the slap. The girl slapped his handsome face hard. Point 2. If he didn't want to find out the whereabouts of the wallet, he might have strangled the girl. Point 2. Tell me where my wallet is. 2. Phone, pull him out and chop his head off. Qin Sheng shouted sleepily, the dissatisfaction clear in her voice. Who dared to disturb her sleep? 2. F***CK. You still dare to disrespect me. Liang roared and nudged the girl angrily. Point 2. This stinky girl had crossed too many lines today. She vomited all over him, slapped him, and even wanted to behead him. 2. In her sleep, Qin Sheng burped, an uncomfortable twist in her stomach. Point 2. The smell of alcohol sprayed onto the man's face. Point 2. Liang turned over and slipped to the ground. He wanted to wash the smell off his skin again. The smell of alcohol on the girl made him nauseous. The corner of his lips twitched. This girl made him feel so disgusted that he had no idea what to do. Point 2. His eyes narrowed. He needed to work out how to deal with this girl. 2. He saw the girl's phone on the bedside table, so he picked it up and looked through it. Point 2. He glanced at Qin Sheng's small face. There were pornographic videos on the phone. The little girl was more mature than he first thought. Point 2. He snorted loudly. No wonder she was so dirty too. 2. The afternoon sun's gentle rays shone into the room, illuminating the mess on the bed. Point 2. Qin Sheng rubbed her pounding head. Being drunk really didn't feel good. Point 2. But where was she? She looked around the room that she didn't recognize, and she saw that on the bed beside her was a devilish-looking man. 2. Ah! Qin Sheng shouted, picked up a pillow, and hit the person next to her. Point 2. Liang, who had just fallen asleep, was woken up by the hit. He sat up and grabbed the pillow in the girl's hands with his own big hands. Are you crazy? 2. What did you do? Qin Sheng pulled the pillow with one hand and grasped Liang with the other, clutching the collar of the bathrobe. Point 2. Guess. Liang's eyes were shimmering with a teasing look. Point two. B asterisk starred. You bullied me. Qin Sheng shouted angrily. Point two. Liang's expression turned playful. Miss, you are wrong. It's clearly you who bullied me. Look at my body. There are still injuries. 2. Liang pulled open his bathrobe, revealing his bruised body. If the stupid girl didn't return his wallet, he would punish her, too. Qin Sheng looked at the red mark on the man's chest in astonishment. Had she really been that violent? Where's my wallet? If you don't hand it over, I'll tell others about us. How dirty you can be. Liang threatened. Point two. Any girl with a bit of shame was afraid of being told about such things. Qin Sheng's lips twitched. The B asterisk starred man was bullying her, and now he even threatened her. Point two. She turned her head and suppressed her anger. You want her wallet, right? But will you promise not to tell others about what happened today? 2. I never go back on my words, Liang said. Point two. Qin Sheng raised her hand to Liang, and Liang dodged her. Point two. Even now, he could still vaguely smell the alcohol on her body. Stay away from me. Liang was so obsessed with cleanliness that he could not bear to touch this girl. Point two. Why are you hiding? There's something in your hair, Qin Sheng said. Point two. Liang was stunned. Was there still some dirt in his hair? 2. Take it away from me quickly, he shouted. Point two. Qin Sheng's fingertips slid over the man's ear and took off his diamond earring. Point two. Liang realized that he had been tricked and reached out to grab the earring Qin Sheng had just snatched. Point two. Qin Sheng stretched her hand to the farthest distance, not letting the man reach it. If you dare to tell people about what happened, I won't give it to you too. Stupid girl, you're messing with the wrong man. Liang's hand grabbed the girl's neck. Point two. Qin Sheng's throat became dry. Being grabbed by the man's hand made her feel such pain that she retched. Point two. Liang consciously let go of her, afraid that she would make him dirty again. Point two. Qin Sheng took the opportunity and jumped off the bed. I don't have your wallet with me. I'll go home and get it for you too. Liang pursed his lips. His wallet had been robbed, and now his earring had been stolen. This girl really was playing with fire, but he had to agree with her so that he could get his items back. And once he had them back, he would deal with her. Point two. The Duke got up and started to gather his belongings. I'm done packing. Let's go. He impatiently pointed at the dress on the sofa. Point two. The noble's reputation had nearly been ruined by this girl. Point two. Qin Sheng picked up the dress and ran to the bathroom, her mind spinning with plans. Point two. She changed into the dress and walked out of the bathroom, but there was no sign of the man. She ran out of the suite and saw him walking up the corridor, dressed neatly. Clearly, he wasn't one to wait. Point two. Qin Sheng speedily ran past the man. She didn't want to wait for him. 2. She was thinking about Chu Xia, wondering how she was. Last time she'd seen her friend, she had been with the Duke's subordinate. Point two. Hey, stop right there. Where are you going? Liang asked. Point two. Your wallet is at my house. Come to school tomorrow and try to find me. Qin Sheng did not even turn her head and ran away, aiming for the VIP room where she thought Chu Xia might be. Point two. Tomorrow. How could Liang let her leave it until tomorrow? He wanted it now. He ran to chase after Qin Sheng. Point two. Qin Sheng ran straight to the VIP room and pushed the door open. Point two. She was stunned by the scene in front of her. It seemed that Chu Xia and Sikong Ju were sleeping soundly. Point two. F asterisk CK2. Chu Xia, get up. Qin Sheng walked towards her friend and shouted. Point two. Chu Xia woke up, and so did Sikong Ju. The two of them looked at each other and bounced away as if they were poisonous creatures. Point two. F asterisk CK. Chu Xia slapped Sikong Ju. Point two. Sikong Ju snapped out of his drunken stupor. What right do you have to hit me? You volunteered to do this. Don't play if you can't take it, too. Chu Xia felt wronged. She held Qin Sheng's hand and ran out. Qin Sheng spoke as she was pulled out by Chu Xia. What happened, too? What do you think happened? I don't want him anyway. Chu Xia's heart was aching. Point two. Liang walked into the VIP lounge. Sikong Ju asked, how are you? Did you take revenge on the little vixen, too? Liang's lips turned into a straight line. What do you think? I am the Duke after all, too. Liang walked away quickly. He did not dare to let Sikong Ju ask any more questions. He was afraid that he would be exposed for letting the girl get away again. Point 2. Sikong Ju's eyes flashed. He had finally completed his mission, got his master to his intended target. He took out his cell phone and made a call to someone across the ocean. Point 2. Auntie, Duke Liang has found a woman. She's the daughter of the Qin family. 2. She's the daughter of the Qin family? Oh my God, is this fate? Good boy. Annie will give you a great reward. That boy has never touched a woman, so this is welcome news. It's great, as I thought my family might go into extinction. Don't say anything to him yet, though. I'll take the plane immediately. We'll go directly to the woman's family to propose marriage.